John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas. This is Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
So the Eagles have basically told us without telling us what Jalen Hurts' status for Sunday is. We don't have official word, but a move that they made yesterday told us really all the fan base should need to hear. So now the question is, how quickly and how competently can Jalen Hurts and this offense get prepared for this postseason game? Andrew Salciunas out today. He's sick, so I'm Connor Thomas in for him. John Kincade to my left is Kincade and Salciunas here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
This is Kincade and Salciunas.
If you were to ask me, Eagles versus Packers, Eagles versus Vikings, Eagles versus Lions, I feel comfortable in saying I believe the Eagles win any of those games.
I know that for the most part, you're always going to count on Nick Sirianni's teams being ready to play no matter what week it is.
Kincade and Salciunas. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas.
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
And a good Wednesday morning to everybody out there across the Delaware Valley. I'm Connor Thomas sitting in for Andrew Salciunas. He is out sick today. John Kincade, as healthy as an ox to my left. Johnny, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing well and wishing Andrew a quick recovery. And also hope he hasn't spread anything else to all the rest of us.
I'm feeling great.
But he's trying to. I feel great, too. I get the flu shot. Just a public service announcement.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
Get the flu shot. It's really not, it's something that can help you.
Because this time of year, you need everybody available. And we're not just talking about the
all
Philadelphia
hands on
Eagles.
deck, right?
Yes, but we are talking about the Philadelphia Eagles today, of course, as we draw closer to their matchup with the Green Bay Packers, 4:30 p.m. Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field. And one of the big things to watch, is Jalen Hurts' status for Sunday. Now, he hasn't technically, according to any true team announcement, cleared concussion protocol yet.
You're using air quotes, or are you just putting your hands in the air?
I'm using air quotes.
Okay.
Because we know that they didn't need him last week. There was this conversation about, what are they trying? They're not trying to rush him back or anything.
Right,
because
exactly.
The thought the whole time was he's going to be ready for Sunday. Well, yesterday, the Eagles made a roster move that should tell you, without specifically telling you, that Hurts is good to go. They waived Ian Book, and you might say, well, Ian Book would be the fourth guy on this roster if Hurts is healthy. And that's exactly the point. If Hurts is not healthy,
he's the third guy.
And the emergency third quarterback, lest we forget the NFC Championship game 2 years ago, could be important. San Francisco complained all offseason after they were ousted in the NFC Championship game about why did we not have another quarterback on the roster? We should have been allowed to have another guy so Christian McCaffrey didn't have to play quasi-quarterback, running back hybrid in that game. So the Eagles know very well, firsthand experience, you need quarterbacks available. If they're waiving Ian Book, they know that Jalen Hurts is going to be ready to go.
I got to tell you, we knew Jalen Hurts was going to be ready before this. There was no one thing I will tell you is that with any professional sports team, if something this big, this earth-shattering was happening, like Jalen Hurts wasn't going to be ready for the playoffs, it would have leaked. We got great beat reporters. We have guys who are focused on this team 24/7, including our own Andrew DeCecco and more. This story would have broken. We would have known it. It was never happening. I still don't understand how they handled it. But more importantly, we're going to see Jalen Hurts on Sunday, and that's the big deal. They would not have gotten rid of Ian Book otherwise.
Right. It could legitimately be because people talked about, well, they didn't need him for last week in Week 18. They're arresting him, so maybe they didn't test him to get him out of the protocol. It could legitimately be that this concussion was worse than we all assumed it was. We saw him try and go back on the field against Washington, put his helmet back on, give the thumbs up, and then was told he can't go back in the game. And we all assumed that meant, okay, well, he's probably fine, but they're being cautious. Could be that it was worse than we thought. But we haven't really seen this when players come back from concussions, and I'm not underselling the importance of brain health for these NFL athletes.
No.
But when players come back from concussions, it's not like an ACL. It's not like an ankle where you have to get back to trusting your body to be able to cut and to make the moves and be as athletic as these guys are. It's normally you're right back there. Like, as soon as you're available to get back, there isn't really a ramp-up period where you see a diminished level of play. But that's looking at normally a week's worth of time off. Now, Jalen Hurts has had a significant amount of time away from playing consistent football, and he's been out of practice as well. He's been in meetings, but he can't physically practice while he's in the protocol until he's in the latest stage of it. So the question now that we're pretty darn sure Jalen Hurts is going to be available for Sunday, and we should get word relatively soon that he's cleared protocol. I imagine that comes today or tomorrow.
I imagine that'll come today.
So the next question is, how is Jalen Hurts' ability to prepare? And how much does rust factor into that equation for you? You got 3 days of practice time before this game happens. It's not a lot to prepare for a postseason game, even for a guy like Jalen Hurts that has been in the postseason multiple times, has been the quarterback of this team for multiple years, has been around the league for a couple years now. He's kind of on the edge of turning into like that veteran status.
Sure he is.
So this isn't new to him, but if you have a concern, I've had this concern for like a week about rust.
And you and I share it, and Andrew did not.
Right.
He doesn't really have a problem with it. I do. The one thing I would say to you, Connor, is this, is that there's a lot of people that have even called this radio station, texted the radio station, and they said, this is just like training camp. Jalen Hurts, you know, he didn't play a snap, and then, wow, he comes out in the regular season game, and he was slinging it. One of his best passing games of the year came against the Green Bay Packers in the opening game. But what I would say to you is this, is he practiced every day. He didn't miss a day of practice during training camp. He's been sitting around. And so I believe your observation on rust absolutely is something to not obsess on, but absolutely it should mildly concern you. Mildly.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're not looking at this with just a little level of concern, I think you're whistling past the graveyard. But let's think about Jalen Hurts coming off of instances where he did not play, periods of inactivity when it comes to games this year. We've got 2 instances. We have the Week 1 matchup with the Green Bay Packers. He looked rough to start that game. He turned it into a strong performance.
His last 3 quarters, he did a great job.
But a slow start.
Absolutely.
Coming out of the bye week against Cleveland, they looked rough.
They looked really rough.
Game.
They did.
And now that was a point in the season where the team was not firing on all cylinders. And after that, the next week against the Giants, they just hit everything the way they wanted to. And they went on a run and won the next 9 games following that win against Cleveland, which made it 10 straight. So they were a different team after that mark. But the 2 instances we've seen Jalen Hurts have a week off or time off for not playing games and then play, he hasn't looked exceptional. So
I would take you back to 2022. The Giant game at the end of the regular season when they needed to play him because they had lost the 2 Gardner Minshew games and they still had to win to get the number 1 seed. He comes out in that game. That was a very uneventful day after 2.5 weeks off for Jalen Hurts. It wasn't a great day at all for him. 21 days after that Bears game when he got hurt. So to me, anyone who is just dismissing talk of rust has not paid attention to Jalen Hurts' career when he's faced that.
And you may think, if you heard our show yesterday, hey, this is John and Connor directly going in the face of what Andrew did yesterday with the whole we're not going to talk about the concerns or anything. We're going to tell you a lot of stuff throughout the show today. John has some great numbers on why the Philadelphia Eagles are winning this football game.
Sure.
And may win it easily. As easily as you can win
as easily as you can win a postseason
game. But there are some great indicators of why the Eagles are the better team in this game. But the big story is Ian Book being waived means it looks like Jalen Hurts should be good to go for Sunday if you're reading the tea leaves. Now we have the conversation of how much do you have faith in him to be as prepared as possible with minimal practice time? And that's the question we're going to start the show with. You can chime in on the phone line, the text line, 610-632-0975. It could be 3 days of practice for Jalen Hurts to get ready for this matchup with Green Bay, and that's including last week and the week following the Washington game.
Sure.
It's a short runway.
And I wonder how people are going to think if it's being too alarmist. The facts are right there. When Jalen's been in this situation, it's been a little rough.
And if you want to tell us, hey, we're looking too much into this, that's your opinion, and love to hear it. I'd love to hear the confidence today because we're going to talk a little later on in the show about this being the turning point of the week for the mentality of the fan base. This is the seesaw tipping point where people start to get chesty ahead of a postseason matchup. So we'll talk about that. But the whole rust conversation, it's not just us having it. And Kellen Moore met with media yesterday. He was asked about it. So we'll tell you what the offensive coordinator had to say about his quarterback coming up next. This is Kincade Salciunas. I'm Connor Thomas, in for Andrew Salciunas. John Kincade to my left. We're back after this here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Vacation? Business trip? Don't worry.
So we have a busy day here on Kincade and Salciunas. I'm Connor Thomas. Andrew Salciunas is sick today, so I'll be filling in for him. John Kincade, as usual, seat to my left. Brendan Gunn on the board this morning in my usual seat. So
and Haley doing everything behind the scenes.
Absolutely. We're hoping Andrew feels better soon. We need him back for this postseason push. But we have a busy show. We're going to talk to Adam Schefter coming up 7:55. We're also going to have Andrew DeCecco's midweek check-in, a new thing that we're doing with the postseason here. That'll be at 8:25.
To check in.
Yes. And
Shorter than his normal appearance.
just a nice little quick check of like, hey, Ian Book, you got waived. Is this saying what we think it's saying? How are the boys feeling at practice? Just a quick little vibe check on what's going on with the Birds from the guy who's inside the building and knows all about it. So that'll be fun. We also have some stuff to give away, too.
Really?
Yes, it's a Wise Wednesday, so we have the Wise snack chip boxes. And we also have Rally House gift cards to go along with that. So we'll tell you more about that. You're going to want to be listening. We're doing 2 an hour throughout the show.
Okay, that's amazing. The Rally House, by the way, just to the Rally House folks, the new Rally House in Exton, top notch. If you haven't seen it, they literally moved across the street from one shopping center to another. But man, they went from being like in a building that was, to me, always was too cramped, to being in this spatial, palatial place. It's awesome.
The one in Springfield's also beautiful.
Well, the
brand
one in
new there.
Springfield's
They're all
amazing.
awesome. There's
They're
not a
awesome.
bad
It's
Rally
great.
House on the map. So
I love it. I just need more room. I get a little claustrophobic. I love it when there's more space. It was awesome.
Well, you listen to the show today. You could get your snacks for Sunday's game. You could get your gear for Sunday's game.
What number
all
do I
in one
call
fell
to
swoop.
win?
Well, we're going to have the contest line, which will
okay.
be 215-263-0975.
Not now.
But not yet.
Not now.
Not yet. We'll tell you when
Don't
you
freak
can call.
Haley out right now.
There's 2 an hour to give away, so be listening intently. You're going to want to listen intently for the content we have today as well, because we opened the show talking about Ian Book being waived, which is this kind of backhanded way to say we're pretty confident Jalen Hurts is going to be good to go. So now the conversation shifts away from, and the only people who are really having this, what if Jalen Hurts can't play Sunday? We're the national media
Greeny.
who must have missed this story that, like, he's had this for 2 weeks and there's no way he's not playing Sunday. But the conversation now shifts to, could he be rusty? What is his level of preparation? How quickly can he get prepared? So if you're worried about this, the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles, Kellen Moore, he is not. So he should be able to give you some confidence with what he said yesterday when asked about Hurts' ability to not be rusty in the postseason.
No, I think our guys do an excellent process here as far as, you kind of let the medical side take care of their business. And, we do our side of it as far as anything we can do to help anticipate this.
Now, I didn't expect him to say anything else. Like, he's not going to be asked the question, are you worried about Hurts being rusty? And he say, yeah, I am. Like, that was the only answer he could have given.
Okay.
So
I didn't necessarily buy it.
yeah,
I mean, it was, to me, I don't know. I don't think he really answered much, but I'm not truly concerned. But am I worried about it being a bumpy ride in the beginning on Sunday? Yes, I am.
right. Like, the plane isn't going down, but there may be some turbulence.
Sure, there might be.
And listen, a lot of people have been on flights with turbulence, and we've gotten through all right. So it's going to, and here's the thing.
It's a playoff game, too, against a quality opponent.
Yeah, I think when we look back at 2022, which is the team that this team has most been compared to because it's the most recent juggernaut Eagles team, that was an anomalistic postseason run. Beating the brakes off of 2 teams after having a first-round bye and then basically walking to the Super Bowl is not a path that teams often take. For most postseason teams, in any capacity, there's some kind of turbulence on the trip. So we should expect that there to be bumpy quarters, bumpy halves, maybe even a bumpy game. But this Eagles team has withstood that throughout the year. They've won consistently, and Jalen Hurts has been a catalyst of that. So,
well, the 17 team boat raced everybody, and then the first postseason game against the Falcons, they were honestly lucky to win.
Yeah, it was a nail-biter.
And then it turned around, and then they started to get back to playing sort of like they did in the regular season.
Right. So Kellen Moore says no, he's not nervous about Jalen Hurts being rusty. John, you and I say
A little anxious.
Kind of.
Just a little anxious.
Where are the people at? 610-632-0975 is the phone number. You can call in. You can text in. Let us know. Are you worried about this? Have you maybe just thought about it in the back of your mind? Or is this a nothing story where you say, nah, he's going to be fine? You guys are crazy. Whatever your opinion is, we'd love to hear from you. Coming up next, well, if you do have concerns about Sunday, chances are they're not about the defensive side of the ball. We heard from the offensive coordinator. Now we'll hear from the defensive coordinator.
I love this man.
And he says something that goes completely against what the head coach and offensive coordinator said earlier this week. We'll see what Vic Fangio has to say about the postseason matchup. Coming up next, I'm Connor Thomas sitting in for Andrew Salciunas. John Kincade to my left. This is Kincade and Salciunas, and we are back after this here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports News Update.
What is the status of QB1? I'm Brendan Gunn, and this update is brought to you by Groundworks, your expert for basement waterproofing and foundation repair since 1997. Book your free inspection today at groundworks.com. The Eagles are set to host the Green Bay Packers this coming Sunday at 4:30 in the wild card round of the NFL playoffs. The Birds enter the postseason relatively healthy, but all eyes remain on Jalen Hurts as he is still in concussion protocol. In order for him to exit the protocol, he has to practice and then report back the following day that he has no symptoms. The Birds are set to practice today, so we'll keep you updated all day long on the participation of Jalen Hurts. A good sign did come yesterday, though, when the team waived third-string emergency quarterback Ian Book, who was the third-string emergency quarterback this past Sunday, meaning Tanner McKee will probably be back in that spot, which means Jalen Hurts will resume his spot as QB1. As for the rest of the team, Tony Dungy, who joined Kincade Salciunas yesterday, said he expects the Eagles to be in the NFC title game at the very least.
So I like where they are. I think they're just really ready to roll, and I don't think anybody's going to stop them until they get to Detroit. I think we can look for Philadelphia and Detroit in the NFC Championship game.
The Flyers dropped their game last night to the Toronto Maple Leafs 3-2, back-to-back losses to the Maple Leafs, and the Sixers, they host the NBA worst Washington Wizards tonight. You can catch that game right here on The Fanatic. This update was also brought to you by Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is a domestic litigation firm, is a partner you can count on. Call 866-323-7529 or visit CordellCordell.com. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Andrew DeCecco.
When you look at what the Eagles have.
information about Jalen Hurts and his ability to be ready on Sunday. I'm Connor Thomas, sitting in for Andrew Salciunas. He is out sick. John Kincade to my left, Brandon Gunn on the board. And it's not like a major concern for any of us.
No.
Like, we're not worried about the Eagles losing this game because of Jalen Hurts. We're not worried about really the Eagles losing this game based on a lot of things. And we're going to run through some of those numbers later on in the show. We'll also talk to Adam Schefter and Andrew DeCecco, so we'll get the national and the local reporter point of view and see if there's any way. But we talked to Tony Dungy yesterday, Hall of Fame head coach. He had no concerns about the Eagles. Like, he thinks Detroit's the only team that can stop them. We have a lot of confidence in this team. But if you're going to pretend like the quarterback not practicing for 2 weeks basically ahead of a postseason game isn't a major storyline, you're covering your eyes, I think.
Yeah, you don't want to be. There's zero reason to be Pollyanna about this. There's not. Look, we can be confident in our team, and we can have legitimate conversation about it.
Exactly.
And it's legit conversation.
Frankly, if we weren't talking about this, I don't know what the other major storylines from the Eagles' perspective would be anyway. Like, Saquon is great and rested. This team, the roster is unbelievably talented. I mean, just for example, like, let's take a look at the defense, because this is what we're going to do here. For anyone who's like, well, why are you focused so much on Hurts? He's going to be fine. Okay, then the Eagles are going to be fine. Because,
and by the way, how do you say that? I'm just saying, when someone says that
Hurts is going to be fine.
Yeah, they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
How are you saying that so confidently? I just don't know.
It's a postseason game.
We're
stuff
hoping
happens.
it's going to be okay.
Yeah, and it seems like more likely than not it will be.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe like 10% of you says, well, could Hurts get off to a slow start because he hasn't practiced or played in a while? But if you do have concerns, there's a good chance they're not going to be about the defense, because this defense has been as consistent, as talented as any in the NFL. I mean, that's why they're the number one defense in the NFL. That's why they've been in that spot for like the past month. And it took them a little bit of climbing the ranks to get there after a not a rocky start, but like...
That was rocky at times. I mean...
Rocky compared to this. Average compared to what I think we probably expected. And then they reached this new level of, like, competence that we never believed this defense was going to be capable of. They're unbelievable. And outside of that weird game against Washington, where one of their more important players gets ejected, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Jordan Davis goes down, Josh Sweat goes down. Like, guys were in and out of that lineup. Nakobe Dean was in and out of the lineup.
And remember, the game wasn't put away. You would have had a different defensive game plan if Jalen Hurts was in the game.
Exactly.
It never happens.
Right.
That never happens because you were already up 14-0. Jalen probably doesn't turn the ball over where Kenny Pickett does to make it 14-7.
Correct.
Yeah, so
they blitzed 38% of the snaps that time, opposed to the rest of the season 18%.
Correct.
So they changed the whole scheme.
They knew that Kenny Pickett was in there and they were going to exploit it.
Yeah, I mean, that's completely...
That's what happened.
What you put that game on. Outside of that one, they've been ironclad. So you shouldn't really have concerns about the defense. We're going to give you numbers like I've been bringing up. John has some great ones about quarterbacks the Eagles have played, and then also what the Packers have done against playoff teams. So we'll see that from every perspective and try and make you feel as confident as possible. But one of the narratives is like, well, you might have beaten Green Bay in week 1, but Nick Sirianni told us, hey, things change from week 1 to week 18, which is the, game 18, the NFL wild card round. Kellen Moore said things are different between now and back when you played him for the first time. So Vic Fangio, the wise old defensive coordinator, what does he have to say as far as teams being different at this point, Green Bay doing different stuff? Well, he was asked about the differences in Green Bay from week 1 to where we stand now, and here's what he had to say.
You know, not a lot. They are running the ball very, very well, and they have their play-pass game off of that. They're a big play team. They get a lot of explosives because of the quality of their running game. It's a really good offense. They do a good job calling it. They keep you off balance.
You know what's great about the difference, though, with Green Bay from their first game is the fact that Green Bay was totally healthy.
Right. That's a huge difference.
Green Bay is not totally healthy this time around.
No,
so I mean, and by the way, and the Eagles are better than they were in the beginning of the year. Green Bay is not better than they were in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles.
So I think everything points to the Eagles, but we're keeping things objective.
Right. The Eagles have added. Think about it. They've added to their defense. Cooper DeJean is miles better.
Yeah, he's just a man.
He's not a safety.
Yes.
He's just a cornerback who locked down your number 1.
Right, exactly.
But there it is.
Not a safety.
Above that.
He's been a major asset to this defense. He was not playing in week 1. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, let's be honest. We can be fair. He stunk for like the first month.
He was bad for at least a month and a half.
He's creating turnovers like nobody's business lately when he's not ejected from games, and I don't think that was totally his fault. So that wasn't like a cheap shot there.
No,
but he stays in the game. He's been an impact player for the Philadelphia Eagles defense. The Kobe Dean and Zach Vaughn, they've turned into guys that they did not look like in the first week of the season. So you're just, well, Zach Vaughn did have a good game against Green Bay, but still, you're looking at an improved defense. While Green Bay has taken a step backwards, you should not be worried about the Philadelphia Eagles defense heading into this game in any capacity.
I like how Vic Fangio says, though, is that it is the truth. They do have a powerful running game, which they have the opportunity to lean on a little bit. And imagine if it's going to be what I'm thinking now is like 18-degree wind chills. Now, that's not going to affect Green Bay, but it does affect sort of how a game is played. And you expect a little more physicality and maybe not as much of a passing game. In the freezing cold.
And it's weird, too, because you think back in that on that game in Brazil, the turf or the attempt at turf down there.
Which was terrible.
Awful. So people were skating around, kind of reminded you of the Super Bowl back in 22, 23.
Remember Saquon's first carry?
Yeah, slipped in the backfield.
5-yard loss.
And everyone was like, wow, was this the right move? And then
how'd this season turn out?
Yeah,
exactly.
I think that was a minor setback for a major season, we'll just say. But the point is, there are weird differences from every game to every game. So it's not apples to apples. When Vic Fangio says, well, not much is different, well, the circumstances are different. The players are slightly different in who's available for Green Bay. The weather's certainly different. But history would tell you Vic Fangio is the brutally honest voice when you hear media availability from the Eagles coaching staff. Nick Sirianni will give you coach speak. Kellen Moore will definitely give you coach speak. Vic Fangio does not do that. He tells you what he's thinking. So if he thinks not much has changed, well, that would seem to indicate that he feels pretty good about his ability for his defense to improve on what they did in week one. And their averages recently, or really since that week, would seem to indicate that they're capable of improving on the amount of points that they let up to Green Bay. I mean, in fact, that should seem like a stone-cold lock considering what this defense has done over the course of the year.
Yeah, they're playing much differently. And when you add about the fact that Nakobe took off, DeJean coming in, they're a different team, and they're healthy. So they're healthy and ready to go.
Do you have any concerns about the Eagles' defense in any capacity, John?
Not at all.
Me either.
Like, that's one where I don't even there. I believe if the Eagles lose this playoff game, we will not be coming in ever talking about the fact is, well, the defense just collapsed.
So you don't worry about the pass rush at all, not being able to get home in a playoff game?
Nope. No.
Right, yeah,
I'm not worried about.
I'm not worried about
with Jordan. Not with this secondary. And I do believe this pass rush will be able to get home a bit on Jordan Love like they did in the first game of the year, where they caused him a lot of duress.
He got knocked out of that game for a little bit. There was a point where it looked like it was going to be Malik Willis in that game, and he ended up being hurt after that game.
Which was that was more like a freak thing.
Right, it was. But listen, this past week for Jordan Love, it was kind of a freak thing where he couldn't really feel his throwing arm, was the reports. And he seems like he's going to be okay for Sunday's game, but okay to play does not mean 100%.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the defense is, though, if you're talking about it, we're stacking up least of my concerns.
Yeah.
I feel really good about the Eagles defense at home because it has always been one of those things where when they play playoff games at home, the defense tends to eat.
Yeah, you get to another level.
Whether it's the noise, whether it's the intimidating atmosphere, but the Eagles defense does tend to eat.
And you guys don't worry about the overall youngness, inexperience of the young defense in the postseason either.
No, because they played big games. They've gone on the road. They've beaten the Ravens. They've beaten the Rams. They played Pittsburgh at home. They took care of them. Not that that's a great offense.
And I think that's where it's at, is that they made that Pittsburgh offense, though, look
mediocre at best.
High schoolish. Yeah,
yes. So
exactly.
We'll add that to the conversation.
Rancocas Valley level.
And we look better than that. Easy on the Rancocas Valley Red Devils. Now, we'll add that conversation to our earlier one about Hurts. Are you with John and Brendan and I, where you don't feel any concern about the Philadelphia Eagles defense? 610-632-0975 is the way to jump in on that. And we're also going to give away right now our first prize pack. So it's a $25 Rally House gift card and a variety box of Wise Snacks because it's a Wise Snacks Wednesday. Call now. The contest line, 215-263-0975. First caller will win a $25 Rally House gift card. And all winners today also get a variety box of Wise Snacks.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Yeah, munch the good vibe on game day with Wise Snacks. So go ahead and check that out. And you can win your box right now. Coming up next, we're going to look at some numbers on the Packers defense against playoff teams because Johnny has been doing some research. Johnny Stats.
He's a dork.
Has some numbers that should make you feel pretty darn good. So we'll get into that coming up next. I'm Connor Thomas in for Andrew Salciunas. We're back after this here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni.
talking about that last segment. We all feel pretty good about the Philadelphia Eagles defense. The confidence level is insanely high with that side of the ball. And frankly, it is.
Deservingly so, right?
It is with like this whole team. I don't want to single out the defense and make it sound like, oh, well, we trust them, but the offense, not so much. I have infinite faith in Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. We're going to talk about Dallas Goedert a little bit later on in the show and the impact him coming back has, especially considering Jalen Hurts could be a little rusty. Having that safety valve there could be a very important thing on Sunday. But I don't want to use that defensive example as one to put down the offense. I just think that I'm most confident in the defense because of their consistent elite level play. The offense has been good this year, but I think they still have a level above where they were that they could consistently be at. Does that make sense? Like, I think they played to their ceiling a couple times. I think the defense played to their ceiling much more often.
Okay.
But again, we're splitting hairs here with a great football team where both sides of the ball look insanely talented.
Feeling really good about them.
Yeah, and the thought should be, heading into this game on Sunday, that the Eagles' defense is not going to be the reason that you go home. If you go home, it would probably be rust on offense or something like of that nature. Would
Not
seem more
taking
likely.
kicking field goals. What did we learn the other night?
Exactly.
Minnesota in the biggest game of the year, they were kicking field goals when they have to score touchdowns.
And kicking field goals in and of itself might be a concern for some people.
That's a major concern for me.
With Jake Elliott's here. Now,
people keep saying I have confidence in Jake Elliott. He's done it before. This isn't Jake Elliott of 2017. This isn't Jake Elliott of before.
Now, I do have confidence, but here's the other thing I'll say. For right now.
Why do you have confidence now, based on what you've seen this year? And this has not been a limited opportunity to see him not be his best.
Yeah, it's the Ranger Suarez thing from this past year for the Phillies. Like, when you see a guy in big moments step up a couple times.
You think his leg's coming back all of a sudden?
No, but I just think having been in these moments before should give you some level of confidence. Like, okay, at least he knows what it feels like. He's not having his best season, but he's made big kicks in a Super Bowl. So you at least have a track record.
Eagles are down 23-20 with 15 seconds to go, and Jake Elliott has to kick a 54-yarder to tie the game. Nobody. If anybody says they're confident, my BS meter's going off the charts. Boop, 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 boop.
I'm
liar,
not,
liar.
Especially not with the weather that you're going to have on Sunday.
Cold as hell.
Here's my point. If you're in that situation, it's not Jake Elliott's fault.
No, you're right.
You did some major things wrong. Like, he should not matter in this game. You are not much better, but you are enough of a better team than the Packers that field goals should not be the difference in this game.
That's why Minnesota is going on the road for 3 potential games to try to go to the Super Bowl. They got to win the first one, which might be hard.
Yeah, and that's really...
Mikey missed all over the Rams, by the way.
Oh, interesting.
You missed that at the end of the day yesterday.
I did miss that.
Mike told us yesterday, he goes, I think I'm all over the Rams.
He likes L.A. Well, guess what? Matt Stafford is pretty darn familiar with Minnesota.
He likes the idea of the Rams. He goes, I think I'm all over the Rams.
Interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on that. You can hear Mike coming up at 10 a.m. today on the Mike Missanelli Show. But, John, you have some interesting numbers because we feel good about the Eagles' defense's ability to stop the Packers. How are Green Bay fans probably feeling about their defense's ability? You have some numbers on what the Packers' defense has done against playoff teams this year.
Yeah, and this is a good number. Is that I would ask every Eagles fan right now in their car, or if you're listening at your desk, or you're shaving this morning, just be careful, don't nick yourself. I did New Year's Eve and I was bleeding like a stuck pig. If you were to say how many points do the Eagles need to score to win this playoff game, you guarantee me they're going to walk off. If they get to this number, you guarantee me they're going to walk off victorious. Gunnar, you go first.
25.
That's not a bad spot to be. I was thinking 27 or 28.
Okay. Well, when the Packers have played a playoff team this season, they've averaged giving up just over 27 points a game. So almost 4 touchdowns. I don't want to be too cocky on this, but I don't see the Eagles' defense giving up 27 points to this team.
I don't know how they could.
On Sunday afternoon in that stadium with the things that Jordan Love and the offense is going to have to overcome.
That's where I was at. I thought there's no way the Packers are scoring more than 24 points, so that's why I put mine right at 25. You win the game.
Well, they give up 27, and that's when their defense has been healthy for the most part. I mean, now you're missing Jair Alexander. You're gonna potentially you've lost guys on offense. And by the way, offense does affect defense because when you can't sustain drives, when you can't control the ball, if your defense is out there for 1 or 2 extra possessions, even if the Eagles don't score in those possessions, it's wear and tear where the Eagles have shown you in the fourth quarter they're going to kick your ass.
You ready for this? Do you know the last time we're going to, besides the Washington game, we're going to take that one out because of the weird circumstance.
Okay.
The last time besides that Washington game where the Eagles defense gave up 27 or more points.
Was it opening game?
It was week 4 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
33, right? Was that 33?
They gave up 33.
Okay.
prior to that Washington game where a lot of weird stuff happened, you didn't have your starting quarterback. You had all these guys in and out on defense, ejection, all of this weird stuff happened. And you still forced 5 turnovers in that game. It's been since Tampa Bay, back when it was like 100 degrees out down there in South Florida. It's just, no, but I'm not using that as an excuse. I'm using that as a comparison.
Time everyone brings up that when they talk about that game, how about we just say the Eagles sucked that day?
Well, no, I'm saying it
they
to
were
compare
missing
it to
people.
the weather.
Oh,
like, it's going to be like 10 degrees Sunday, and it was that long ago when the Eagles defense last did this in what I would call a legitimate defensive effort.
I think it's fair. Yeah,
and even that, no Cooper DeJean, you had nobody on offense. Like, this team does not give up 27 points. So, I guess.
So there it is, 27, and that's in when they've played games in really good conditions and otherwise. Sunday, temperature's 36 is a high. The game will kick off at sundown. So by that time, it is supposed to feel around 23 or 24. So,
dude, if they give up more than 21 points on Sunday, I'll be shocked. The Eagles need to score 3 touchdowns to win this game, in my opinion.
Okay.
And
You're
think
saying 21. Okay.
They're very capable of doing that.
Oh, no, they're very capable.
I mean, Saquon did that by himself against this Packers team back in week 1.
Saquon had a beautiful game against this team.
He did, and we're going to bring that up as a comparison to where we're at later on in the show. We've got a lot of angles that we're trying to take looking at this game. We're trying to shore up everything to make sure that we have a good handle on what we're going to see on Sunday because, listen, even if you are firmly confident that the Philadelphia Eagles are the better team, if there's one thing that goes wrong, this team does not have margin for error. This is win or go home. So you have to attack this game like it's the biggest game of your season because right now it is. The biggest game in the postseason is the next one. And the next one for the Philadelphia Eagles is the Green Bay Packers on Sunday. So we'll add that to the conversation. Do you think that the Packers can score 27 or more points on this Philadelphia Eagles defense? If you do, I'm going to need to hear a really compelling argument on the phone line and the text line 610-632-0975 as to why you believe that's a possibility because John just gave you some strong numbers that says that is not happening.
And I just gave
Sunday.
you playoff teams.
Yeah,
just
absolutely
gave you the
did.
playoff teams, so that's the only thing.
We're going to give the people something else, though, other than stats. We're going to give away another Wise Snack Pack. So you can call now, 215-263-0975. First caller to the contest line. You'll win a $25 Rally House gift card. All winners today also get a variety box of Wise Snacks. Munch the good vibe on game day with Wise Snacks. Big game day coming up. You can also catch the Mike Missanelli Show broadcasting live this Friday, starting at 10 a.m. at the Rally House in Willow Grove. Stop by and gear up for the Birds playoff run. That's a great prize to have with a postseason game right around the corner. Now, up next, we've established Jalen Hurts is pretty much a lock to play on Sunday, but in what capacity? Is there a change to the game plan that you're going to be using for Jalen Hurts? And we're not talking about rust. We're talking about the risk of health and a long postseason run to go. And it's funny because Johnny Play Saquon is the guy who brought up maybe taking it easy on Jalen Hurts in the capacity you use him in on Sunday. So I'm interested to hear this argument coming up next. It's Kincade Salciunas, John Kincade to my left. I'm Connor Thomas sitting in for Andrew Salciunas. We're back after this here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
What's the status of QB1? I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. The Eagles are set to host the Green Bay Packers this coming Sunday in the wild card round of the playoffs. The Birds enter the postseason relatively healthy, but all eyes remain on Jalen Hurts as he is still in concussion protocol. In order for him to exit the protocol, he has to practice and then report back the following day that he has no symptoms. The Birds are set to practice today, so we'll keep you updated all day long as far as the participation of Jalen Hurts goes. A good sign came yesterday, though, when the team waived quarterback Ian Book, who served as the emergency third-string quarterback this past Sunday, meaning they have their 3 quarterbacks on the roster already. As for the rest of the team, Tony Dungy, who joined Kincade Salciunas yesterday, said he expects the Eagles to be in the NFC title game at the very least.
So I like where they are. I think they're just really ready to roll, and I don't think anybody's going to stop them until they get to Detroit. I think we can look for Philadelphia and Detroit in the NFC Championship game.
The Flyers dropped their second in a row to the Toronto Maple Leafs last night by a score of 3-2. They're back in action tomorrow night tonight hosting the Dallas Stars. And the Sixers, they host the Washington Wizards tonight. Tip-off is at 7. You can catch that game right here on The Fanatic. This update was brought to you by the Bet Parks app. Join Seth Joyner and D Gunn for the Bet Parks pre- and post-game shows live at Parks Casino for every Birds game. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Tyrone Johnson.
How many teams in the NFL could sit out 5 guys and still have a passable offensive line? Well, the Eagles did that.
Has plenty to say about sports in Philly.
It speaks to the depth of this team, and it speaks to the coaching from this team. That's part of the reason why this is the best team in at least the NFC. I think the NFL.
Hear Tyrone with Ricky Vitalico on the best show ever. Weekday afternoons 2 to 6. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically?
absolutely flying by here as we push towards the 7 o'clock hour. I'm Connor Thomas sitting in for Andrew Salciunas, John Kincade to my left, Brendan Gunn on the board. And Johnny just gave us some very good stats about the Philadelphia Eagles' ability to stop the Green Bay Packers and the Packers' inability to score against postseason teams. So numbers would tell you that Green Bay is probably not putting up more than 27 points, and you could probably argue that down to around 21, considering what the Eagles' defense has done.
You should be able to, yeah.
Like, that's my mark, right? If the Green Bay Packers score more than 21 points, I'm going to be surprised. And history would show.
I think that's bold, very bold. I like it. Bold
Really?
and beautiful.
Do you, like
I mean, it's
see them
because
score more?
No, I don't, but I mean, this is a team that I think can put some points on the board.
Yeah.
It wouldn't shock me.
I just
Like,
don't.
I'm not going to be shocked if we come in Monday and the Eagles won 34-27. But I'm not going to be shocked because I could see this game going, like Green Bay getting a little antsy, the offense going.
Isn't it funny, though, too, how, like, if that's in the regular season, you're like, oh, is the defense starting to slip a little bit? But now we're in the time of year where it's like,
no, you just win in
advance. Who cares?
Yes.
Well, I mean,
survive
like,
in advance.
I swear to you, I will never forget that Falcon game that Saturday afternoon because I was talking myself into Nick Foles. You know, they could get by with Nick Foles. And then I watched that game and I said, dude, Nick Foles is terrible. He's terrible.
And then the next thing you know.
And then the next game, he's absolutely Joe Montana. And he's out there out-dueling Tom Brady. So you never know. It's like each of these is an individual chapter of a book.
Exactly.
And you just want to win and go on. And history would tell you one game doesn't feed to another.
Yeah, it's like the Browns game earlier in the season where we're freaking out. Is this going to go on for weeks and weeks and weeks? I'll take that this week. You
Sure,
win
just
the
go,
game,
just
you
go. Yes.
You go.
Yep, survive in advance. And the Eagles, well, they've cut their teeth in some tight games
Sure.
over the course of the season. Now it created some stress for us.
It did.
But now that you look back on it, you might say, okay, well, they've been in tight games. They've been in blowouts. They've lost one or two. Like, okay, this team is as prepared as they could be. Or, well, at least the guys that have been available. But we started the show talking about Jalen Hurts, and we're going to have this conversation throughout the show about his ability to prepare for this game, getting out of concussion protocol, if that's today, tomorrow. We do assume he's going to before the game. But again, that's an assumption, and we have not gotten official word that he's out yet, so no full practices. How much of a concern is that for you? We're also going to talk in a second about what that changes potentially about the Eagles' strategy for how to use Hurts in the offensive game plan on Sunday. But I want to open up the phone lines. You can jump in 610-632-0975. You can call. You can text. Let's go to Jordan in Florida to start us off. Jordan, you're live here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey guys.
Hi, Jordan.
I mean, obviously, the conversation we're about to have about Jalen, I've been pretty hyped about the playoffs and all that. And a lot of people are worried about him and all that, but I honestly think he might do very well. And, you know, in the first couple of weeks of the regular season, Jalen was pretty crappy.
Well, no, the Green Bay game, he actually played really well. It was one of his best passing games. It was one of his best passing games of the year.
Yeah, just a slow start.
Slow start, though. You're right on the slow start.
So, I mean, obviously he didn't have a single preseason snap, so having not that much experience before the regular season starting, it could worry me about him being on concussion protocol and then heading back to the playoffs, which is even more important. So I'm a little bit worried, shaken.
I don't think that's strange.
Now, Jordan, do you think it could cost them a game, or do you just think it could be a rough start that we have to endure?
I mean, it could be a rough start and you can catch on because it's not like a whole preseason break. It's like a week or two. And he could do pretty good. He could do pretty bad. It just really depends, and we won't know till playoffs.
All right. Well, Jordan, appreciate the call.
Let's hope that's not the case. He could do really good or he could do really bad.
That's a bold take there.
Or I'm going to tell you this. I think it's very likely he could just do enough.
Yeah.
And be in the middle. That we could walk in here on Monday and say, all right, we won a game, but we need more out of Jalen if we're going to beat better teams. In fact, I would tell you that might be my most likely scenario that we're talking about on Monday.
But even in that scenario, we're not getting really bad Jalen.
No.
Yeah.
I'm just saying to you is that I could absolutely see us coming in here Monday going, all right, we won, but Jalen's got to be a lot better.
You're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPEN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia, Beasley Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. When our last caller there, Jordan, was talking about you're either getting really good Hurts or really bad Hurts. It could be either. You're not getting really bad Jalen Hurts. Like, history would tell you in the postseason, he's not going to be really bad. Even in the games you've lost to Tampa and Tampa.
Well, the first year against Tampa, he really wasn't good.
And that was rookie.
But it was rookie. I don't care about that one. I honestly, I don't even consider that sort of in the lexicon of what to expect today. That Jalen Hurts is nothing like the guy we have today.
And that team also, like that Tampa Bay team had Tom Brady. Your team was still kind of on the edge of competition. You weren't quite the strong roster that you became in 2022. Like, they weren't ready as a team. I can't think of postseason games where it's like, well, Jalen Hurts is the reason you guys are home. If the Eagles lose a postseason game in the Nick Sirianni era, it's because either the team was not prepared because they were younger and they were trying to figure some stuff out, they weren't talented enough, or they were in the middle of the collapse. The Super Bowl was just kind of, hey, that's playing Patrick Mahomes in the final game of the year. That is what it is. It's tough, near impossible to beat that guy in that spot, and you gave it a great run. So history would tell you that Jalen Hurts, more often than not, is going to be maybe not the number one reason you win, but he's not going to be the number one reason you lose.
And to me, I think that's all I need with this team. I don't think that's outrageous, is that for Jalen Hurts, if Jalen Hurts is not, he doesn't have to be the reason this team wins in the postseason. But in the Super Bowl, he was freaking unbelievable that day. A unfortunate fumble, which cost the game, but he was unbelievable on that day. But I don't think he was necessarily the reason you were winning against the Giants or the 49ers in those earlier playoff games. So right. I don't think we need him to be anything too crazy.
No, this team does not need a Patrick Mahomes clone, a Josh Allen clone, a Lamar Jackson clone to win the Super Bowl. Or at least let's just focus on this game. Definitely not to beat the Green Bay Packers.
Sure.
Just go out there, play your game, be what Andrew Salciunas calls a game manager, and take care of the football. You're going to be fine. As long as you don't turn the ball over, you're going to be better than this team consistently enough. You come out on top on Sunday. I feel good about that.
And Chunas isn't saying that in a derogatory fashion.
No, he means it. Well, he holds game managers in higher regard than I think anybody on the face of the planet.
He does. He says he really does.
But you'll hopefully hear from him later on this week. Out sick today, so Johnny and I are filling in,
hopefully
carrying the rock.
Better.
Yeah, I hope so. Speaking of feeling better, we hope Jalen Hurts feels better before the postseason game against the Green Bay Packers. And the Eagles waiving Ian Book yesterday would seem to indicate that they're pretty confident that Hurts is going to be good to go. But, Johnny, you are a little bit not concerned, interested in, we'll say, how the Eagles utilize Jalen Hurts in the rushing game on Sunday.
Okay, can we, on one point of contention, can we all agree that the threat of Jalen Hurts running is what has helped make Saquon Barkley be so effective?
It's one of the top three things.
Okay, offensive line.
Yes.
Jalen's threat to run.
Yes.
And the receiving game, the threat
Absolutely.
of the receivers. Okay.
But it's
which
in
one,
the top
okay, if I told you those three, which one are you putting 1, 2, 3?
I'm putting the offensive line 1 easily. I'm putting Hurts 2.
That's what I'm doing too.
Receivers 3.
Okay, so we're on the same page.
Yes.
I wonder, coming off a concussion, whether Jalen himself or Kellen Moore and the offensive game plan with Nick Sirianni, they say, we can't risk getting him popped again running the football, taking another shot to the head and being out. Because if you get a second concussion in this time frame, so this is, you want nerd boy?
Go for it.
A second concussion in a month's time frame usually leads to a 2-game absence. Oof. Season over.
Yeah.
Season over. You ain't beating anybody with Kenny Pickett, and God forbid, I know Tanner McKee. Was he on Full House? I can't remember. I know he's the greatest second coming of backup quarterbacks. You're not beating anybody. Nick Foles is not walking through that door.
He's available.
He's not walking through that door.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
To me, it's the idea that you've got to say, okay, this is you can't. Do you not want Jalen Hurts to run as much, or is Jalen tentative about running the ball knowing that if he gets knocked out, this team's chances to win are absolutely a net negative.
Well, he won't be tentative because we've never seen him in his career really to be. We've seen him slower.
I've seen it.
But we haven't seen him and that was a lower body injury, what we saw last year where he was like, okay, he doesn't seem to run the ball at the same capacity. But Jalen Hurts, I don't think is afraid to go take the ball and take hits and everything.
I want to know what people think about that, though.
Yeah.
Because that is
it's a great question.
To me, it's a question of, look, he could be a little, I don't want to get hit. Because season's over if Jalen goes down.
Absolutely.
Done.
Well, the number for people to chime in on that, 610-632-0975. Do you think Jalen Hurts will be tentative about running the football on Sunday coming off the concussion, or will the Eagles be a little bit nervous about using him that way? What are your thoughts? I'll give you mine coming up because this is a dangerous game we're playing. And it's also something that you kind of plan for. We're also going to get into a conversation about Kellen Moore and his confidence in Jalen Hurts and everything that plays into why we should have faith in Jalen Hurts to prepare even in a short time frame. So we'll dive deeper into that conversation. It's very Hurts-centric, but a lot of talks this year have been about Jalen Hurts, quarterback of the football team, about to play a postseason game. That is how it goes. I'm Connor Thomas, sitting in for Andrew Salciunas. John Kincade, you heard his voice making those great points to my left, and Brendan Gunn on the board. We're back after this for more Kincade and Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Ricky Vitalico.
still have a busy show planned for you. We were just talking in the break, Johnny. I love how fast the show is flying by, and that's what happens when it's a postseason game week.
Everybody, too, getting into the new clocks.
Yeah.
I just prefer to, unless I have to go to the little boys' room, I prefer to just sort of sit and chill because it's fast.
No, it definitely is.
Because I love getting a little walk in, everything, but no, not during this.
Well, it's good for the people.
We're fast. It is good.
More content, less commercials. That's a good thing. It is good. More time to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles matchup with the Green Bay Packers. And we're going to talk about what you brought up with Jalen Hurts and his running situation coming off the concussion in just a second.
I wonder what the offensive game plan will be, considering what Jalen Hurts is coming off of. And every time Jalen Hurts takes a hit, this city is going to take a collective gasp for every time in the postseason.
Absolutely.
You got to worry about it.
I think we would have anyway. But
second, ESPN stats and information. Second concussion in a month. 2 games missed. So just so you know. And that would mean the end of our postseason dreams.
Yeah. I mean, you're dead and gone if Jalen Hurts is not available. Correct. Anyone who gives me 2017. And, it happened with Nick Foles.
Yeah, Nick Foles was an accomplished NFL starter who had started a ton of games, played a lot of football.
Also, that's once-in-a-lifetime stuff,
Correct.
even with a guy like Nick Foles.
I think it's a Disney Channel movie, and we just lived it.
Pretty much, and we were lucky to do so.
It was fun.
Speaking of lucky, you're lucky if you're the first caller to the contest line right now, 215-263-0975, because we're giving away another prize for Wise Wednesdays. It's a Wise Snacks Wednesday, so you call now. You win a $25 Rally House gift card, and all winners today also get a variety box of Wise Snacks. Much the good vibe on game day with Wise Snacks. So we got a bunch still to give away. 2 an hour. That's our first of the 7 o'clock hour. And speaking of things that we're going to do throughout the show, we got Adam Schefter coming your way at 7:55. New time for him with new clocks. We have Andrew DiCecco for his midweek check-in on the phone. Just a nice quick hit with Andrew DiCecco at 8:25, and a lot of great Eagles content in between. So, Johnny, on your point about Jalen Hurts running and how that affects the Eagles' game plan and everything there, it's a dangerous game to play, right? Because on one hand, I don't want to see Jalen Hurts put at unnecessary risk, but I never like to say, can you get by this postseason opponent doing this, or rather not doing this? Like, I don't like to see the team say, hey, this is when we're at our best, but we're going to maybe cut back on that in hopes that it gives us better chances in the long run. Like, they're at their best.
So you're saying go and you're telling me you got to worry about winning that game that day.
Exactly. But maybe people in the fan base, and this is why I'm interested in their thoughts on your thought process here.
Well, that's Nick's mentality. You're echoing. Nick Sirianni has said that at least 3 or 4 times this year about game plans of particular games.
Right.
In the post-game presser, he said, we do whatever it takes to win that game on that day.
But Nick Sirianni is coach speak.
Sure.
And he's going to say we respect every opponent. We need to do everything to win every game. And sometimes the fan base sees this for what it is and says, hey, you don't need to do that to beat Green Bay. You're better than this team. You can get away with it. So you're towing a line of, can we get away with not doing it and still beat this team? I don't want to go home because the Philadelphia Eagles took something out of their game plan that they could have used for a game that now they're not playing because they lost. It's all these mental gymnastics of how do you value the individual postseason game over preparing for the postseason run. What I will say is, if this week is a week you want to do it, it's the perfect week to take Jalen Hurts out of the rushing game because you rested Saquon Barkley for this specific reason.
Sure.
Like, he should be as good to go as he's been all year. He should be ready to roll. So I am comfortable with it. I just wanted to put that thought process out there of, like, let's not lose focus on winning this game by focusing on keeping Jalen Hurts healthy for games that we're not guaranteed to play, if that makes sense.
It does.
Now, what are the people saying on this, Brendan? I'm interested in what we have on the text line. And just Eagles' thoughts in general on a day where we're another day closer to a postseason game. What do our texters, and you can join in with them, 610-632-0975. You can call or text, have to say about the matchup with the Packers.
Yeah, we got Bruce in East Earl checking in. He says, I'm fine with Hurts running the ball. It's a huge part of our game and a big part of our success. Also, Hurts' threat to run really helps our offense and keeps defenses guessing. Perhaps limit the designed runs, but absolutely no tush-push for Hurts in this situation. Have Barkley run the ball in short yardage situations.
Now, what do you think about that, Johnny, the no tush-push?
Well, I'm not a fan of the tush-push when all the time. I'm a fan of it being used. I'm not a fan of it always being the decision that is made. I'd be concerned about it. I would be concerned about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially like you think about Kenny Pickett against the Cowboys when he had his helmet ripped off his head. Like you look at a situation where it is a lot of dirty contact. We'll say.
Correct. And we've seen it in games before. Look, don't put it past somebody if they get a chance to take a 15-yard penalty to get him out of a game. You don't think there's NFL players that would take it?
Yeah, we saw it in the Giants game last year where they jumped and hit him in the head.
Yes.
We saw it in the Bucs game earlier this year where somebody just completely went head first into him. They didn't even call it.
Yeah.
You can't take that risk because if you know you're going to attack it. I know you don't want to think people are awful human beings, but if you're winning a playoff game, they're going to headhunt a little bit.
Guess what? You're not an awful human being if you send your team to the next round in your city.
Yeah, right.
You may be an awful human being if you're Jadeveon Clowney, but when the Seattle Seahawks were playing the next week, his fan base was completely fine with him spearing Carson Wentz.
Yeah, don't act like people have this moral code when it comes to the NFL postseason. Right? That stuff goes out the window. It is win or die right now for these teams. I think they'll still run the tush-push on Sunday, but if anyone wants them to limit how much they use it, I totally understand where you're coming from. And this goes into that kicking conversation with the whole, if you have concerns about Jake Elliott, I get it. But if you lose because of Jake Elliott, you did other stuff wrong in the game. That's the same thing. If you need the tush-push to beat the Packers, you've done other stuff wrong. I think they're a touchdown better than this team, at least. And that should mean that extra yard you're going to gain on the tush-push, well, you shouldn't have to worry about that consistently in the game on Sunday. So if they do use it, let's hope it's like once, twice maybe, and Jalen Hurts is okay at the end of the dog pile that always seems to happen. Now, a guy that could help with Jalen Hurts, we just talked about some things detrimental to Jalen Hurts' health on Sunday if he's used in the rushing game. Well, let's look at what could help him and help his assimilation back into the offense as he works his way back from concussion protocol and missing a couple weeks. That is safety blanket, safety valve, whatever you want to call him, Dallas Goedert, who had a pretty nice game on Sunday. What difference is he going to make against the Packers? We'll discuss that coming up next. I'm Connor Thomas in for Andrew Salciunas, John Kincade to my left, Brendan Gunn on the board. We're back after this from more Kincade and Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
When will Hurts clear protocol? I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. The Eagles are set to host the Green Bay Packers this coming Sunday in the wild card round. The Birds enter the postseason relatively healthy, but all eyes remain on Jalen Hurts as he is still in concussion protocol. In order for him to get out of the protocol, he has to practice and then report back the following day that he has no symptoms. The Birds are set to practice today, so we'll keep you updated all day long on the Fanatic as far as the participation of Hurts goes. A good sign came yesterday, though, when the team waived third-string quarterback Ian Book. He was the emergency quarterback on Sunday, which means Tanner McKee will probably be in that slot again, and Jalen Hurts will be QB1. As for the rest of the team, Tony Dungy joined Kincade Salciunas yesterday, and he said he expects the Eagles to be in the NFC title game at the very least.
So I like where they are. I think they're just really ready to roll, and I don't think anybody's going to stop them until they get to Detroit. I think we can look for Philadelphia and Detroit in the NFC Championship game.
The Flyers dropped their second in a row last night to the Toronto Maple Leafs, 3-2. They're back in action tomorrow night hosting the Dallas Stars. And the Sixers, they host the NBA worst Washington Wizards tonight. Tip-off is at 7, and you can catch that game right here on the Fanatic. This update was brought to you by Moyer Indoor and Outdoor Services, locally family-owned and operated for 150 years. Moyer's been keeping lawns green and lush and homes pest-free. Go to eMoyer.com for free estimates. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Mike Missanelli.
If you're saying that Tanner McKee...
we have a little update on the show plan for today. Just heard from Adam Schefter. He's dealing with some personal business today, so he will be unavailable to join us. So letting Schefter take care of some things he has to, and totally understand that. We are still going to have Andrew DeCecco at 8:25 to give us the local inside perspective on what's going on with the Birds, his midweek DeCeck-in, as we're calling it.
The DeCeck-in.
Yes, so we will get the opportunity to talk to Andrew coming up a little bit later on in the show. We'll see if Adam has a chance to join us later on in the week at some point. But we've been talking heavily about the Philadelphia Eagles all day, obviously. I mean, they got a postseason game on Sunday, and one of the big concerns heading into this game could be, if you're in the same camp as John and I, Jalen Hurts coming off of concussion protocol, which he has not technically cleared yet.
Not yet.
But the assumption is, after waiving Ian Book yesterday, the Eagles making that decision, that Hurts will be good to go for Sunday.
I think more than an assumption.
Right. The large belief.
Yes, exactly.
We'll put it that way. I don't want to say anything concretely because just like Nick Sirianni with concussion protocol, it's a weird thing where you don't really know.
And people don't realize, too, is you can get fined. Teams can get fined if they use inappropriate things about injuries because of the amount of investment that the sports books have in the NFL. So Nick Sirianni, when he's pussyfooting around the whole injury situation, it's because teams can get nailed for it now because of gambling.
Yeah, he's trying to save Mr. Lurie some money.
Exactly.
But with Hurts not having the opportunity to practice and only just getting back to practice, if he's cleared today, he'll have like 3 days before the matchup with the Green Bay Packers. How concerned are you about Jalen Hurts potentially being rusty in the matchup with the Green Bay Packers after missing this time due to concussion protocol? It's something that we have in the back of our mind, Sean, not the front. And I think some people hear us say this.
My frontal lobe may not be totally developed.
What do you mean? I thought that happened at 25.
I did. For some people, it doesn't.
You just had your 30th birthday, Johnny.
Sure.
I mean, you're past that point.
30, all right?
Yeah, all of us on the show are 30, right?
Really prematurely gray.
But, hey, it's a good look for you.
Yeah, I got it.
But the other thing that we want to look into, too, in addition to the Jalen Hurts concern, right, because it's not in the front of our minds. It's just something in the back of our minds. If anyone's hearing this and saying, oh, these guys are terrified the Eagles are going to lose because Hurts is going to be rusty, we're not saying that. We're saying this team is so damn good and there's so few concerns that this kind of has to be the one thing that you do think about and have reservations about. But we saw something really nice this past Sunday in a game that did not matter, where most of the starters did not play, that should make you feel a little bit more comfortable with Hurts' ability to step right back into the offense. And we talk about this with young quarterbacks all the time. I guess the same thought process plays for rusty quarterbacks. The tight end is the ultimate safety valve, the ultimate comfort blanket for a quarterback who might be figuring some things out, getting back into the swing of things, learning stuff. Jalen Hurts fits in that middle category of getting back into the swing of things there. And Dallas Goedert looked good on Sunday in his first action in a couple of weeks after coming off short-term injured reserve. Kellen Moore talked about what it was like having his number one tight end back on the field on Sunday.
So fun to see Dallas out there. He played excellent on Sunday. I thought he did an excellent job, limited role, but took advantage of a bunch of opportunities. We were fired up to see him out there.
And fan base should be fired up to see him out there as well, because I think he's a bigger difference maker in this type of game than we give him credit for. Johnny, your thoughts on Dallas Goedert being back available?
I was extremely concerned the other day, but from what talking to people down at the game, Dallas was the one making sure that he got that playing time. He wanted to have the feel of a game, and he also, more importantly, wanted to feel how he would feel after the game. So he wanted to know and be able to go through that process because he realizes the 3 most important games, 4, are coming up. And so I was glad to see him out there because it's another thing with what Dallas Goedert does. A lot of it is unselfish because people will go, well, he hasn't been much of a factor in the passing game. He's great blocking. He is a selfless blocker.
He is.
As A.J. Brown is too. And it's something that, sitting and watching games with Andrew DeCecco sometimes when he gets seated next to me, he's a lucky camper. That I get to say, okay, Andrew's always watching something that I'm not. And then I'll watch the replay. He'll say something. I'll watch the replay up top and I'll go, okay, I see it there. A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert are selfless blockers.
Absolutely.
And that's another thing they're going to need in this game.
For sure.
Block.
Add extra guys,
pass protection,
maybe.
pass protection or for Saquon to bust another one.
100%. Now, to your point, I don't love that Dallas Goedert played as much as he did against the Giants. I don't love that he was targeted as much as he was against the Giants. But if he comes to you and says, hey, I want to feel this out, and you feel comfortable enough putting him in the game, listen, it didn't kill you, right? So I'm not here to say, oh, that was a dumb decision when he's perfectly healthy and ready to go. And now there is some benefit to it because you have this faith that he's going to be another asset for Jalen Hurts. And to have him in there, like have the better blocking tight end, Jalen Hurts, probably a little bit less skittish. I mean, Great Calcaterra has done a good job this year filling in.
Sure he has.
But you feel more comfortable
but he's not
with
a blocker.
Your best option.
No,
right?
he's terrible. His blocking is terrible. He's almost gotten Jalen Hurts killed quite a few times.
So Hurts should feel more comfortable with Goddard out there. And also in the passing game, I think while Calcaterra has made some great catches, had some great moments, he catches everything when he's open. I think Dallas is used in more versatile ways in the passing game. Like, I think your playbook's a little bit more open with him available. These are all things that, like, can't hurt. And in a game where Jalen Hurts may be looking for the quick, easy option, just kind of see a couple passes get completed so he can get back in the swing of things, that's going to go to A.J. Brown on slant routes. It's going to go to Devontae Smith on those in and out breaking routes, those like 5-yard concepts. But it's also going to go to Dallas Goedert, and having that third option is huge.
If you think back to the Super Bowl, man, every single big throw, every single big moment, they went to Dallas Goedert through the tight window. So that's how important it is having him back out there, even if he's not the primary target. In clutch moments, in the biggest moment, Hurts was going to him.
It was, and he had a few really spectacular catches. He had that one big drop, but he had a really good day himself.
Yes. Now, speaking of days that he's had in the past, in week 1 against the Packers, just to give you the stat line, Dallas Goedert was targeted 5 times. He had 4 receptions for 31 yards in week 1. Not crazy numbers. That was third on the team, though. So it was A.J., Devontae at 2, Dallas Goedert at 3, which is exactly how the breakdown should be. And then right behind him, Saquon Barkley at 4th. So it's not like I'm saying, well, count on Dallas Goedert to give you 150 and a touchdown and be a major impact on this game in that facet. I'm saying having that safety valve back for a quarterback that some of the conversation about him this week is, well, will he be a little rusty? Will he need to knock some rust off early on in this game? That's a great, important thing to have. So don't overlook the Dallas Goedert impact on Sunday.
Yeah, don't think that Dallas Goedert won't make a huge impact in this game.
That's absolutely where I'm at. Now, let's see where the people are at on the game plan, because you brought up, could they change it a little bit with Jalen Hurts coming off this concussion? Do they run him a little bit less? Let's go to the phone lines. Let's talk to David in New Jersey. David, you're live here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hi, guys. Good morning.
Hi,
morning,
David.
So I think the game plan is going to be simple, a little bit what you were talking about. You stole my thunder. Quick slant routes, a little RPO, maybe a wheel route to Barkley, heavily used Dallas Goedert. But the fact of the matter is, what was it, 2 years ago, hurt his shoulder, and he's like, get me the leap up to his lineman, and they got him up, and he finished the game. He's a very good competitor, and they'll probably tell him to limit his runs as much, but he's going to do it. But I feel he's going to be like more of a Russell Wilson this week and slide. He's not going to try to go head first.
I certainly hope that happens.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
I don't need him. I'm going to bet the under rushing yards for Jalen Hurts. I can tell you right. And I'm mainly because it's hoping that that's the case.
And also, I don't want to underestimate the Packers. I know they're terrible.
They're not. They're not terrible.
Every different week is a different team, and I think the amount of game plan for Hurts throwing the ball is going to depend on how good we are rushing, and they could change halfway through the game of if we get behind or whatever. I mean, a lot of players sat. I'm not saying that as an excuse. I'm just stating more of, depending on how the Packers come out, will depend heavily on how more adjust the game plan probably at halftime.
Dave, it's a great point. Thank you for checking in. That's kind of been the Eagles' MO this whole year. It feels like not that they want to start slow, but that they start a certain way, and the strength of this offense has been adjusting to the way that they're being defended. Like, they make great in-game adjustments to figure out how to make the second quarter not like the first, the second half not like the first. And it helps to have a running back in Saquon Barkley that seems to get stronger as the game goes on. But adjustments are going to be key in this game. And maybe that's a point that we haven't really touched on yet. Great job bringing up our last caller, David, there. That this team is as well built to adjust on the fly as any team in the NFL. So even if you are rusty and you see some things that Hurts is not doing well, you can make those in-game adjustments and still have historical context to say you can win a football game doing that. So, I mean, everything's pointing birds, is it not, Johnny?
It seems that way, too.
It's got to make you feel good. Something else that's got to make you feel good. We're going to take a small step away from the Eagle-centric talk. We're going to keep it football. The Cowboys made an insane decision yesterday. This is something that should make you smile. And the state of the NFC East, you should be grinning ear to ear right now if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan. We'll talk about that coming up next. I'm Connor Thomas in for Andrew Salciunas, John Kincade to my left, Brendan Gunn on the board. This is Kincade and Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Bill Colarulo.
The Packers are a complete team as well. You're right there.
great time to be a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles. And not, Johnny, just because they're preparing for a postseason matchup against the Green Bay Packers. As
Hopefully multiple.
Yes, a long postseason run.
Yes.
We're all rooting for that here in Philadelphia. By the way, if you're not hearing Andrew Salciunas, it's because he's homesick today. Hopefully he'll be back tomorrow. I'm Connor Thomas, sitting in for Andrew Salciunas. But it's a great time to be an Eagles fan for another reason, and that's the state of the NFC East. Washington has had a great year based on the standards that they probably had coming in. They've got new ownership with Josh Harris. They've got a young rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels that's going to be the offensive rookie of the year in the NFL and fully deserving of it. He's a stud, or at least he looks like one right now.
Sure,
we'll see how he progresses. Dan Quinn is a coach that has presided over winning organizations in the past, and they seem to be exercising some of those demons that existed with all of the crap that went on with their organization for like the past decade. So they're in a good spot. They're the only team besides the Eagles in the division that you could say are in a good spot. You got two teams that are absolutely lost. Now, the Giants, we know, we talked about it yesterday. John Mara had announced that Brian Dable and Joe Shane are going to be returning. So the GM stays, the coach stays after a season where not only did you stink, but you also won a game against the Colts that was meaningless to kill your chances of the number one overall pick. So things are great up there, up 95 in New York. But yesterday in Dallas, we got some interesting news. So there had been a report that the Chicago Bears had requested to interview Mike McCarthy. Now, McCarthy has not been relieved of his duties as head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Correct.
But there was this thought that maybe it's time for him to get out of there. Maybe the Cowboys, it's time for them to move on. Brandon Graham said that they should keep him because he wants to keep beating the Cowboys. But ultimately, the Cowboys decided to deny the Chicago Bears' request to interview Mike McCarthy, basically saying, yeah, we're going to keep it for next year. That's dumb.
Yeah, it was. I don't understand what it's about, but I do think I know the answer.
What is that?
It's Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, the franchise quarterback, who you just paid the highest contract in NFL history. You gave him that money. He said he wants Mike McCarthy. So when you make that commitment, what do? When the Eagles were moving on, when Shane Steichen went away, the franchise quarterback, fresh off of a Super Bowl, he wanted an offensive coordinator.
That's true. Brian Johnson.
And he got Brian Johnson. 2 creams, 1 sugar. And he got 2 creams, 1 sugar to be his offensive coordinator, which obviously he was overmatched for at the time. He may end up being a great offensive mind down the line or a great head coach. Maybe he's like Nick Sirianni. He'll end up being a great head coach as like a facilitator, administrator, whatever, but not necessarily the strategy guy. Because last year, I wouldn't have picked him in a game of Connect 4, Brian Johnson. And that's against my little cousins. They'd swamp him. But, I mean, it's the idea is that I think that Dak got his way.
Yeah, and
I think Dak got his way. And I'm not sure that that's – look, remember, he won 12 games the last 3 years.
Right. He has won a Super Bowl.
He won 36 games the last 3 seasons. When people point out Mike McCarthy as a boob, I think they make themselves sound like boobs.
Well, your guy Andrew Salciunas, who normally sits in the seat, is a big
He doesn't like
that.
it. But I think he will be smart enough to acknowledge you can't win 36 games in 3 seasons and be an absolutely awful head coach, especially when Dallas has not had the roster the Eagles have had.
Kevin Cooney, you hear that? Nick Sirianni's not a boob.
No, he's not a boob.
That's a fair point.
And by the
both
way,
of
more
you.
importantly, I think Kevin plays with that a lot of times because Kevin would know, and he's been in enough locker rooms. The Eagles players would never describe him that way. The Eagles players love playing for Nick Sirianni. He has great body language with his players. There seems to be. That doesn't mean that they probably don't think he's a dope at times for things he does. I know occasionally I'll look over at Connor or Andrew or Gunner and go, Haley, they're dumb. You know, and it's just what happens in a working situation.
Absolutely. That happens everywhere all the time. And listen, we are deserving of that sometimes here on this show. But what I will say is there's no one right now that can make an argument that there's a better coach in the NFC East than Nick Sirianni. I'm taking him over all other coaches. Now, forget the rest of the league. We're just looking at division at this point.
No, division.
And Mike McCarthy, if Dak Prescott said, hey, I want this guy to be the coach of the Cowboys going forward because he's my guy, Well, that's because he sees himself. Mike McCarthy is a solid football coach. He's okay, right?
Oh, wait. I think he's better than okay.
Well, guess what? A lot of people would argue that about Dak as well. You know what Mike McCarthy is?
The amount of coaches that have won 36 games over a 3-season period is a small number.
I got you.
In NFL history. He's not a dope.
You could say
he's not some cartoon character.
But, John, I could make that argument about Dak's winning percentage as a quarterback. They're the same guy. And they're good enough to win regular season games, 10, 11, 12 of them. They're not good enough to win a Super Bowl.
Okay, could Dak win a Super Bowl behind running with all of the weapons that he has here and with this Eagles defense?
I mean, probably.
Probably. He's a distinctly better passer.
But here's the problem. The guy running the organization's a moron.
No, but
they're never going to get the help they need.
I get you on that, but it's more of the question of Mike McCarthy and that idea of it. Like, he is not a dope.
Yeah, but to win with that organization, you need an over-the-top great quarterback and over-the-top great coach to overcome the terrible Jerry Jones, who's running that organization, who makes moronic decisions.
How much does that locker room respect him? I mean, you think back to what Micah Parsons said about like a month ago when he completely threw Mike McCarthy under the bus. Like, that's one of your primetime players not respecting the coach.
Strategy? Because he said that after Dak went public about his support of Mike McCarthy. Strategy to exit?
Maybe.
I'm just thinking. Because Micah Parsons, to me, is he should be on Days of Our Lives. He is like, everything's drama with him. Everything is about him. Everything is so over the top.
Sounds like a Penn State person to me.
Well, no, because then we got Saquon, dude.
Look,
he's the anomaly.
Saquon alone.
He's the anomaly.
We got Saquon and Mike Missanelli.
But
they're rugged.
Here's my main point with all of this. Like, whatever you feel about Mike McCarthy as a coach, and there is an argument to your point, John, for sure.
He's not a cartoon character, bad coach.
The Cowboys and the Giants keeping things status quo based on what they did this year is a good thing for the Philadelphia Eagles. The fact that they're not trying to change stuff, please, by all means.
Yeah, we're fine with that.
Absolutely keep this.
Stay the course.
Gives you a better chance to become the first repeat division champion in like 4,000 years. You know what? In honor of Mike McCarthy, we would probably love a Wise snack pack.
Oh, he'd eat the whole thing.
We're going to give away something else for Wise Snack Wednesday, so you can call now to win a $25 Rally House gift card, and all winners today also get a variety box of Wise Snacks. The number to call, 215-263-0975.
Mike McCarthy would call twice.
Yeah, caller number one that's not named Mike McCarthy to the contest line will win, so go ahead and check that out.
His fingers would be covered in the dust.
You need the factory, not the snack pack.
Munch the good five on game day with Wise Snacks. You guys are the worst. All right, coming up next, we are going to have today's headlines at 7:55. Again, no Adam Schefter. He's attending to some personal business, so we'll get Brendan Gunn with today's headlines. And we're also just going to kind of get a vibe check in on the fan base. Is this the point of the week where you start to get a little chesty ahead of a playoff matchup? We'll talk about that. Coming up, I'm Connor Thomas in for Andrew Salciunas, John Kincade to my left. B Gun on the board. We're back for more Kincade and Salciunas after this here on The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Protocol. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. The Eagles are set to host the Green Bay Packers this coming Sunday at 4:30 in the wild card round of the NFL playoffs. The Birds enter the postseason relatively healthy, but all eyes remain on Jalen Hurts as he is still in concussion protocol. In order for him to exit the protocol, he has to practice and then report back the following day that he has no symptoms. The Birds are set to practice today, so we'll keep you updated all day long on the Fanatic as far as Jalen Hurts' participation goes. A good sign, though, came yesterday when the team waived quarterback Ian Book. He served as the emergency quarterback this past Sunday, which means everybody's going to be back in their normal spot on Sunday, most likely. As for the rest of the team, Tony Dungy, who joined Kincade Salciunas yesterday, said he expects the Eagles to be in the NFC title game at the very least.
So I like where they are. I think they're just really ready to roll, and I don't think anybody's going to stop them until they get to Detroit. I think we can look for Philadelphia and Detroit in the NFC Championship game.
The Flyers dropped another one to the Toronto Maple Leafs last night by a score of 3-2. They're back in action tomorrow night hosting the Dallas Stars, and the Sixers, they host the NBA worst at Washington Wizards tonight. Tip-off is at 7. You can catch that game right here on The Fanatic. This update was brought to you by Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, coming January 25th. The biggest fighting event ever to hit Philadelphia, Knucklemania 5 from Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships, Saturday, January 25th at Wells Fargo Center. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Not only can you listen to The Fanatic, but you can also watch.
It's a little bit past 7:55. If you were tuning in to hear Adam Schefter, Adam unable to make his normal call today. Got some personal stuff he's dealing with, so we'll see if we can get him on later this week. But we have the next best thing, which is today's headlines. By the way, I'm Connor Thomas filling in for Andrew Salciunas. John Kincade to my left, and that's why Brendan Gunn has today's headlines with Brendan Gunn.
You rearranged this whole board, so give me a minute.
It's in the bottom right, dude.
Oh,
I
my
put it there.
gosh.
Come on.
That is incredible.
Do you want? Okay, let's do this again.
I got it.
Today's headlines.
You
with
rearranged the
Connor
whole board
Thomas.
on me and expect me to know where everything is. It's like coming home, your mom cleans your room. You're like, where's my good stuff?
I
It's
used
gone.
to hate when
Well,
she
move
did
out of
that.
mom's house, and then you don't have to worry about mom cleaning.
Just talking about when I was a kid.
Oh, okay.
What do we got here, Big Gun?
All right, so have you guys been keeping up with the Eagles' uniform announcements all season long? They've kind of subtly did it a couple days before with their Twitter picture, AV, and they announced it the other day. It looks like they may be wearing black uniforms on Sunday. What do you think about it?
Hate it.
Why do you hate it?
I just talked about this. Can we wear our freaking colors? It's a playoff game. Can we wear the team colors? For God's sakes. It's like people playing video games. The Eagles are green. Let's wear green, folks. Let's wear a combination of green.
Now, would you like it if it was the Kelly green and not the black?
I'd love if it was Kelly green. I don't think they're allowed to wear the Kelly green.
I think you
during
get
the
one
postseason.
alternative per postseason.
I do not understand this, why they're doing this. I was not happy with it at all.
I
Wear
gotta
the
wonder.
freaking team colors.
I gotta wonder.
It's a
Do
playoff
other
game.
fan bases care this much about the jerseys their team wears? Is this like a Eagles specific thing, or do other fan bases like have jersey combinations they freak out over? Because I feel like every time
Well,
the
if
Eagles,
the Green Bay Packers were not wearing green
right? Well,
for their home playoff game.
Well, it's
If the
the-
Dallas Cowboys were not wearing blue.
Well, you can't wear green in Brazil. Oh, wait. This game's in Philadelphia.
The Giants were not wearing blue for a home playoff game. No. Teams wear their colors.
Do you think the players had something to do with it? Hey, I didn't get to play last week in this black uniform. We didn't get to play in it all year long. Can we wear
my
it next
gosh,
week?
it just is so stupid. For God's sake, if you're worried about that, you're worried about the wrong things.
I'd rather them be wearing the typical midnight green or
My
the Kelly
gosh.
green. Like, I would prefer that. If they're wearing black, I think it's still okay. But I'd prefer the normal jerseys for the postseason matchup. It'd be weird if they did it back to back. I wonder if it just has something to do with like some hype video coming out and then they wear the actual midnight green. I don't know.
You know what? They're worried about the wrong crap then.
Well, I don't think
For
it's the
God's
pla-
sake.
I don't think
I
it's the
want to
players.
wear black in the playoff game.
I don't think it's the
Stop
players.
it. Wait. These decisions about the colors are usually made by the players.
Well,
They are absolutely usually made by the players lobbying the team.
And then if it was, it probably wasn't that much thought put into it. I don't think they're
Green,
not
black,
focused on the
white,
right thing.
purple, rainbow.
Let's
The
say
Eagles
that.
are winning on
Stop
Sunday.
worrying about stuff like this. The Eagles wear green. They should be wearing green.
It's the Packers' funeral on Sunday.
God's sake.
Jordan Mailata, though, he had a big day yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw him at the Flyers game celebrating a couple of goals.
I did see
But he
that.
also was the inaugural winner of the Media Appreciation Award from the Philadelphia Eagles beat writers yesterday. I wanted to hear Andrew DeCecco's thoughts about this. Maybe I'll ask about a little bit later on. But what do you guys think about that? The beat writers giving Jordan Mailata that award for being open and cooperative all season long.
He may be the most underrated player in the National Football League this year. He is fully deserving of that award. He should have been a Pro Bowl starter. He should be an All-Pro. He should be, when we talk about this Eagles offensive line, and it's crazy considering the talent they have up and down the offensive line, he should be the first name mentioned with the way he's played this year. And he hasn't gotten that respect.
And he bounced back from an off year last year where he really wasn't at his best. He's amazing, but also, too, Jordan is a guy that is very, very cooperative, very deserving of it. So congratulations to him.
Yeah, for sure. And then we'll round out the headlines with today's replay.
How concerned are you about Jalen Hurts potentially being rusty in the matchup with the Green Bay Packers after missing this time due to concussion protocol?
I mean, I think it's fair for him to be rusty a little bit. He hasn't played in, 21 days when he goes out there. That's why I would start the game probably with an easy completion pass and then maybe a designed quarterback run just so he gets hit one time, feels good, say, hey, I can do this, complete a pass, get hit, get right back into it, and just pick up where you left off.
See, I love that. I'd love to hear John's thoughts on this whole idea of, like, get the guy hit early so that he feels it. Is that like a dumb sports brain type thing, or is that...
What, are you calling me dumb?
Well, yeah, potentially.
No, well, you just took the words out of my mouth. Are you dumb? No,
you
I
need
don't
to get
want
hit sometimes. Dallas Goedert wanted to get hit on Sunday so he can go out there and recover from it and be all right.
I do. It's a completely different thing when you're talking about coming back from getting your bell rung. One shot to the helmet, he's out for 2 games. That's what the numbers will tell you.
You have to play the game.
Then why do you have to call that play at that time? You don't have to.
Just do it once and get it over with.
If Jalen
Keep
Hurts
the defenses honest. Don't call it again for a long time.
If Jalen Hurts' shoulder was hurt, I don't know, if he had a shoulder injury, if he had something like that, you would say, you know what, we're going to keep him away from contact. We're going to just try to let him throw the football and do that. This should be the exact same strategy. Don't put him in at least harm's way possible.
Now, what I will say is there is something to like feeling that first hit to gain the confidence. I do agree with that part of the point, but you don't go searching for it. You don't run a play to get your quarterback hit.
Let's just get him a good hit here.
They've run quarterback design runs all season long. I don't think you should change that. You shouldn't coach scared. Well, you can't go out there trying not to lose. You got to try to win.
That's a different argument then. If you're saying that they shouldn't change the game plan, you have to stick with what brought you there. And we had that heard from Nick Sirianni earlier this week. On Monday, he said that exact thing. You got to stick with what got you here. I get that. But running a play to get your quarterback hit so that he feels he's going to get hit in this game. When he does, it'll be good to see him get up from it for the first time, but you don't seek out that contact.
Well, I also think it goes into it, say, hey, we are still willing to run our quarterback early on because that's a valid question right now. Are they going to run him? And as the longer you don't run him, the longer the defenses don't have to account for him.
And the less they think about it, the more it could be a mismatch later on in the game. There's a lot of ways you could figure out to do this, and that's a great job on headlines there, begun, besides finding the button snafu to start.
I'm hoping that Kellen Moore is not listening to Brendan Gunn.
I don't think they're going to intentionally run plays to get Jalen Hurts early contact. What I will say is I will feel much better, and I'm sure Hurts will as well, the first time he gets tackled in this game, and you kind of like say, okay, I'm back. Like, you don't seek that out, but when it does happen in the flow of the game, that is something that's kind of like this this breakwater point where it gets you in and you get a little wet behind the ears there to get back on the field and play with contact. So, as you can see, there's clearly some discourse when it comes to the way the Philadelphia Eagles should handle Sunday's game when it comes to the quarterback. Now, when the rest of your team is so talented, when you have all these other things that you're sure work, you're sure your defense is going to play a strong, stout game. You're sure that Saquon Barkley is still one of the greatest athletes on the face of the earth right now. You're sure that you can get some quick pop passes out to guys like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. Like, you should be able to survive this game without having to run Jalen Hurts all that.
Yes, you should be able to. They should be able to pass all over this team because other teams have. So I understand, Brendan, your thought process, but I want to see an aggressive game plan too. I want to see an aggressive passing attack.
So you want to see him, like, what does aggressive mean to you?
I went back to the 3 playoff games from 22. So going to the Giant game, going to the 49er game, going to the Super Bowl. They threw it downfield. They were aggressive, throwing downfield in every single one of those games. They did not have any problem chucking it down the field 30, 40 yards, trying to hit big chunk plays. They were a very, very aggressive team. I don't want to see a plotting, rushing attack, move the chains attack on Sunday. I'd be fine with that with the lead once they get the lead. But I'm not really wanting that to be the plan coming out.
So opening drive, they go out there, they throw on first and second down, they're behind the sticks on third down, and then they go 3 and out. Are you going to be cool with them not running on that first drive at all, or are you going to say, hey, I wanted them to go out there and be aggressive with the passing attack?
Well, the thing is, it doesn't mean that you have to pass on all 3 downs. I mean, I'm talking about your offensive philosophy on Sunday. I want it to be very aggressive.
Yeah.
If you come out and run on first down and you make it 2nd and 6, I got no problem with that. But I just want to see a good portion of aggressive passing game be the first quarter for the Eagles.
This should not be a keep away type of game. This should not be a game that you roll into and say, we've got to run these long 7, 8, 9 minute drives so that Jordan Love doesn't touch the football against this defense. Like, this is a game where you should feel confident that if you are aggressive, your defense is going to get you the ball back and get you the ball back quickly. They're one of the best teams in the NFL, the Eagles are, at getting teams off the field quickly, 3 and outs, or quickly ending drives in like 2 opportunities to move the sticks. Like, they're top of the top when it comes to that. So that speaks to your point, John, of like why you should be able to still be aggressive.
Yes.
And we haven't talked about it. Like, the Green Bay Packers, if they have a weakness, they have had people throw the ball on them all year long. So we're going to talk about that coming up next. We're going to look at the numbers for the Green Bay Packers passing defense and an injury, not Christian Watson, not Jordan Love, not Jalen Hurts, but one that could end up being the biggest impact on Sunday's game. There is another name for the Green Bay Packers that we absolutely need to talk about if we're going to talk about their passing defense that should tell you, okay, well, Green Bay's defense, they could be in for a long afternoon on Sunday. So we will get into that coming up next. Remember, Andrew DeCecco will join us at 8:25 for his midweek. The check-in, he'll give us a nice little phone call, so we'll get a chance to hear what's going on around the facility, maybe a little insight on Jalen Hurts and the latest from him. And, of course, we're going to ask him about that Ian Book getting waived decision by the Eagles, and if that says the same thing to a reporter of the team as it does to us two knuckleheads. Seems like Jalen Hurts is going to be good to go. So plenty still to get into here as we continue to move closer to the Eagles' wild card matchup with the Green Bay Packers Sunday, 4:30 p.m. I'm Connor Thomas in for Andrew Salciunas, John Kincade to my left, Brendan Gunn on the board, and we're back after this from more Kincade and Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Vacation? Business trip? Don't worry. You can
We are back live here. By the way, this is 97.5 The Fanatic, WPN, HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, Beasley Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. Yes, no Adam Schefter today, taking care of some personal business. So we had today's headlines. We're going to talk to Andrew DeCecco coming up at 8:25. So some good stuff there from Andrew DeCecco, sure to be on the way. And this is something that we haven't really talked about with the Green Bay Packers. When you look at their numbers defensively, their weakest spot on the team, well, really the weakest spot on the team overall it's got to be the passing defense, right, Johnny? I mean, the numbers would seem to point that way.
That would seem to point the direction you want to go. Sure.
And we talked about, Jordan Love had the issue with his throwing arm. He couldn't really feel his fingers or whatever at some point in the game in Week 18 on Sunday was the report from Green Bay. Now, he was throwing on the sidelines a little bit. We'll see what his limitations are. We know Christian Watson had the ACL tear. He is done for the year for Green Bay, but Jair Alexander is not going to be available for the Green Bay Packers in this game on Sunday. And that is a guy who was unable to cover A.J. Brown in Week 1, but still a very talented defensive back. If he can't cover A.J. Brown, I don't think you're moving to a backup to cover A.J. Brown any better. Like, that's a huge loss for a team where the passing defense has been a major issue for them all year.
It's an amazing loss. Just because the aggressiveness that they're going to think. Now, remember, I believe it was on the A.J. Brown long touchdown. He toasted him. So it's not like this is a guy who was the shutdown for Green Bay. He was pretty exploited at times. I'm anxious to see how the Eagles decide to attack, and that's another reason why I want them to attack.
Yeah, like the Eagles
after that.
Passing defense is second best in the NFL in yards allowed. The Packers are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15th.
Look at you being able to.
Yeah, I can count. That's all I could do. If I had tried to do that mentally, I would have said like 27th or something. They are 15th in the NFL by yardage allowed through the air this year. And while that's not like, they're not 30th or anything. Yeah, I get that. But it's the postseason now. And at this point, when you're talking about playoff teams, most of them do not have major stats where they're in the bottom third of the league. To be league average in passing defense with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts rolling in on Sunday, or rather you having to go into their house and you not having Jair Alexander back there who would normally cover the number one wide receiver on the other team, that should be a major concern for Green Bay. And that puts you in a spot where if I'm a Packers fan, that's the number one thing I'm nervous about is getting picked apart through the air on Sunday.
All right, I want to say, too, and I want to thank, Sevi for this one. Sevi says exactly what I said to Brendan Gunn during the break on Twitter. Sevi saying, wait a minute. John, last week you were being told, put everybody in bubble wrap. You cannot allow anyone to get hurt. Now Brendan Gunn is advocating, send Jalen Hurts out there first series. Let him take a good hit. What
Preseason
nonsense?
game week 5 last week versus a playoff game. Get him hit one time.
Why do you want him hit? It doesn't make any sense.
Just so he's not playing scared. Like if you're coming back from a concussion, you might second guess.
He's not going to play scared. This guy went toe-to-toe in the Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes. Guy's played in national title games, college playoff games. This guy's played big-time college football. He's not scared.
I'm not going that far. Scared.
You're saying tentative of an injury?
Tentative, yes.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't want it to happen. He takes one hit, and again.
The guy's ran 100 times, 300, 400 times in the NFL. He's had one concussion.
ESPN stats and info again. Get a second concussion in a month. On average, players have missed almost 2.5 games.
At some point, he's going to have to run.
We don't need to worry about it. That's a bold statement. That makes sense. If they're down 14-3, roll the freaking dice and do it. Right now, don't make it part of your game plan.
I think you just need to keep defenses honest. I'm not saying do it every single drive. Do it once and get it over with. Keep the defense honest. Open things up for Saquon. Make sure he's not playing tentative. Call it a day.
Yeah, but you sound like if he was to get into the open field, like let's say he gets a misdirection read, he takes the ball out of Saquon Barkley's hands, and he splits out left. And then it's him and a linebacker kind of on an angle that you'd almost rather him seek the contact than go out of bounds or slide. Like, here's the thing.
No, you got to do it naturally, but you guys still have to be safe. You have to go out of bounds, slide, but
your initial argument was like he needs to get hit, and here's the thing.
I'm just playing the odds.
I'm just playing the odds.
No, you're playing the. You
don't play the odds.
Playing the odds would have been playing Saquon last week. You would have said Saquon hasn't gotten hurt all year. So Saquon, put him out in the game, get him the all-time rushing record.
I mean, if that was the decision they made, I wouldn't have cared. But we're on to the playoffs. It's a meaningful game now.
The thing is, you didn't play the odds. It's not, but you don't have to do this. You've got all these. Look, Kellen Moore's holding up his chart. He's got so many things he can do. The last thing he needs to do is put Jalen Hurts at risk.
I'd rather do that
at the beginning. Why would he do that?
Yeah, I don't see the want to get Jalen Hurts hit. I understand that once he does get hit in the flow of the game, it'll probably be a point where it's just like, okay, cool, maybe I play a little bit freer. Maybe I feel a little bit better. But you don't ever seek that out. If Jalen Hurts goes through this entire game without getting his jersey dirty, which with this offensive line
could happen.
It could absolutely happen, right? Green Bay's not rolling in Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt. Like, you could block these guys up. So there's a chance that Jalen Hurts is asked to do minimal things on Sunday to win this football game. If you get out of that clean, nobody's going to complain.
God, makes
so
me
you're taking
smile.
design runs out of the offense completely?
No, I'm not
Unless
saying,
you're losing and you need it.
I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that seeking contact for the quarterback to get him in this, like, I feel more comfortable zone is not the best idea for a guy coming off a concussion with a long postseason road ahead.
I don't think it is either.
If you get hit in the flow of the game, you get hit.
Right.
And I'm sure he'll be fine. But you don't seek that out. And if you run read options or you run quarterback runs, design plays, you say, all right, dude, you get in the open field, get down. I don't want you taking contact. I don't want you getting hit. He's going to get hit at some point in the game, more likely than not. But if he doesn't, no one's going to complain.
That's fair. Like, I don't want Jalen Hurts to get hurt either. I'm not running him like a wildcat offense where he's just going up and down the field, read option all day, every day. But I think you need to keep defenses honest.
Yeah, I'll take my time. There's so many other ways that I can keep a defense honest. So many other things on that play chart that I can do to keep them honest.
I think number 26 is enough to keep defense honest.
You got the best running back in football. You don't have to. And guess what? A lot of guys who are great running backs don't have quarterbacks that are running threats. You have the best offensive line, best running back. Line up and play bully ball.
Yeah,
Get out there and knock him around.
A lot of what Saquon has done has been able to keep the end or the edge rusher honest on the outside, trying to contain Jalen Hurts and not crash.
You know what else does that? No. The little slant, the quick slant, first 2 or 3 plays like they did in Pittsburgh to A.J. Brown. Those
like
type
that
of
too.
things can accomplish the same exact thing.
Right. Saquon's been unbelievable here. Let's not pretend like he didn't have productive games in New York with nobody. Like, he could do it too. Like, this offense is multifaceted.
I'm just saying he didn't look that great without Hurts on the field against the Commanders.
Because it was a mid-game adjustment. They know how to handle this. I trust this coaching staff to put them in the right spot. We'll talk to Andrew DeCecco coming up and just on the other side of this commercial break. But real quick before we do hit that, what do we have on the text line here, B-Gun, as far as our conversation around this Hurts and the game plan on Sunday and the Eagles matchup with the Packers?
Yeah, we got Brady in Norristown checking in. He says, I'm very concerned about what Hurts goes out there and looking rusty against the Packers. Look how slow our offense has started all year. What if they only go out there and don't score more than 7 points in the first quarter? Will they be in trouble?
Here's my argument. They've done it all year, and they won 10 straight games.
Yeah,
I'm
not
14
worried.
total. Like, I'm not worried about slow starts simply because they've overcome them against better teams than this.
Yeah, a lot better teams than this. They've done that, though. But, look, I can understand the thought process in that.
Yeah, it's a postseason game, so you're going to get nervous.
Are you telling me you're down 14-0? Yeah.
Yeah, then we won't
Then
feel
I'd
great.
be concerned.
But
I'm
if
not
you're down
expecting this
7,
defense to put them down. 7, I won't even blink.
Nah, and you shouldn't. This team is good enough that they can
we have to
overcome.
give them that level of respect to say, okay, we understand you're not going to just fold the tents.
And we as a fan base should be comfortable enough at this point with slow starts where you should say, okay, well, this team is talented enough that I shouldn't lose my mind if they're down like 7 after a quarter.
Amen.
Long football game for the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, we got Andrew DeCecco joining us coming up next. He'll do his midweek to check in on what he's seeing in the locker room and hearing from the team. We'll ask him about Jalen Hurts and a lot more about the Eagles matchup with the Packers on Sunday. So a fun little check-in with the insider coming up next. I'm Connor Thomas, John Kincade to my left, Brendan Gunn on the board. We're back after this for more Kincade Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
What is the status of QB1? I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. The Eagles are set to host the Green Bay Packers this coming Sunday at 4:30 in the wild card round of the NFL playoffs, and the Birds enter the postseason relatively healthy. But all eyes remain on Jalen Hurts as he is still in concussion protocol. In order for him to exit the protocol, he has to practice and then report back the following day that he has no symptoms. The Birds are set to practice today, so we'll keep you updated all day long as far as participation goes with Jalen Hurts. A good sign came yesterday, though, when the team waived quarterback Ian Book. He served as the emergency third-string quarterback this past Sunday, which kind kind of lends itself to thinking everybody else is going to be in their rightful place in the QB room this coming Sunday. As for the rest of the team, Tony Dungy, who joined Kincade Salciunas yesterday, said he expects the Eagles to be in the NFC title game at the very least.
So I like where they are. I think they're just really ready to roll, and I don't think anybody's going to stop them until they get to Detroit. I think we can look for Philadelphia and Detroit in the NFC Championship game.
Flyers dropped another one to the Toronto Maple Leafs last night by a score of 3-2. They're back in action tomorrow hosting the Dallas Stars. And the Sixers host the NBA worst Washington Wizards tonight. Tip-off is at 7. You can catch that game right here on The Fanatic. And this update was brought to you by Bradford White Water Heaters. When you need a new water heater, choose one that is built to be the best. Choose Bradford White. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Andrew DeCecco.
When you look at what the Eagles have.
time for us to check in with our favorite Birds insider, Andrew DeCecco, who is
we've got one.
Yes. Well, we talked to Jeff McClain earlier in the week.
The Inquirer claims Jeff McClain.
Honestly, we like everybody, but Andrew DeCecco holds a special spot in our hearts, especially this week, because we got to know what's going on with the QB and what's going on with these Birds ahead of their matchup with the Green Bay Packers. So let's go to the Comcast Business Hotline. Every day in business is a big day. Comcast Business gets you ready for what's next. For our midweek to check in, Andrew, first and foremost, the Eagles waive Ian Book yesterday. Does that say to you the same thing it's saying to John and I, which is Jalen Hurts should be good to go?
Yeah, that's as big of a tell as you can hope to get at this point in the week, guys. And Ian Book, for him to have been the emergency third quarterback, he would have had to have been on the 53-man roster. So that suggests that all the quarterbacks are going to be back in place in their normal spots in Jalen Hurts, Kenny Pickett, and, of course, Tanner McKee as the emergency third quarterback.
I am a believer that now the question is, how do you develop a game plan with a quarterback who has been not only out of action for a month, but is in danger if he was to get that second concussion? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great question, John. And what I would say is, I think if you're the Eagles, you don't want to stray too far away from what's made you so successful. And I think when you do that, you become a little bit guarded, and you're not able to kind of have the whole playbook at your disposal. So for the Eagles, I would expect them to kind of turn Jalen Hurts loose as they have all season. The thing that I'm curious to see, because I'm not sure where you guys land on this, but Kellen Moore, I haven't seen the innovation or anything like that with the motion and everything that we thought we were going to get with Kellen Moore. It's been more of the conservative approach. So I'm expecting the Eagles to come out run heavy, leaning on their offensive line, getting Saquon Barkley going, and allowing Jalen Hurts to settle into the flow of the game and try to get off to a fast start.
What do you think that is with Kellen Moore? Is that I haven't needed to use it this year because Saquon Barkley's here having a 2,000-yard season, or is it a inability? Because, if we're in a spot where you need to use more in the postseason, do you think he has that up his sleeve?
Oh, I would say, honestly, looking at the game, looking back, and I've watched every game multiple times, Connor, for me, the games that were quintessential Kellen Moore games were the first game against Green Bay, and I would also say the Steelers game, at least based on the data that we have from Kellen Moore at his previous stops. But I think the Eagles saw that running the football was so effective, and the offensive line was literally wearing teams down, and in the third and fourth quarter of those games, eventually the dam broke and Saquon Barkley was able to take over. They just found that was their recipe for success, and I think that he hasn't had to pull out all the stops. But so that's why going into the postseason, I'm not exactly sure they're going to see all the bells and whistles from Kellen Moore, because the Eagles haven't had to pull that out because they've just been able to dominate every team. It hasn't been the fast starts that everyone had been hoping for, but I think just the physicality and their bully ball style has allowed the Eagles to really take over games late down the stretch.
I know you've been watching film all week because that's the way your programmers programmed you. When you're talking about the opponents that have really taken advantage, whether it's Minnesota, Detroit, the Eagles, of things that the Packers want to do offensively, what did they do defensively?
I think taking advantage of Green Bay in the passing game. And what I mean by that is this week they're going to have someone like a Keyshawn Nixon who's playing corner. And I think that he's been probably one of the most underrated players on their defense. And they also have a second-year player in Carrington Valentine who's going to be on the other side. They've been banged up all season, John. Jair Alexander's only played in 7 games this season. They have a really good safety tandem in Xavier McKinney and Javon Bullard from Georgia who can move around, but they've just been very vulnerable against the pass. And I just don't think that Green Bay's been able to adjust because they've had so many different moving pieces there. And this is a really bad time for them to be shorthanded in the secondary. So that to me has been where teams have been able to really exploit them.
We're talking to Andrew DeCecco on the Comcast Business Hotline. Andrew, when you look at the Packers' ability, or rather inability to score, John had some numbers about them not really clearing 27 points against postseason opponents. Do you think that what's the threshold for amount of points you could realistically see the Packers put up on Sunday?
24, I would say, just because Jordan Love, and that's a player who was going into the season with a lot of hype surrounding him. If you really look at it, he's kept the ball out of harm's way really since the midway point in November, but he hasn't. It's almost like the Green Bay Packers have taken the ball out of his hands. They've become very run-centric with Josh Jacobs, and that to me would tell you that they're going to try and slow the game down and hope that they can get a big run in of themselves, but I just don't see them being able to compile that many points, just given they're not entering the postseason on a very high note. And their best chance of really taking over this game is to get their running game going, because Jordan Love hasn't had the passing game, the passing attack that everyone thought he was going to have. And they don't have Christian Watson, by the way, guys, who is their deep play specialist. He averaged 21.4 yards a game. I'm sure we all remember that they tested Quinyon Mitchell early in the first game of the season, and that's kind of how they try to stretch defenses out, and they don't really have that kind of player right now. So I think they're going to try and run the football heavy with Josh Jacobs.
I'm interested to see the role of Devontae Smith in this offense on Sunday. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think he's actually going to have probably the biggest game when the Eagles do take the passing game. Remember, in the first game, he had 84 yards on 7 catches, and he could have had a lot more. I just view him as a terrible matchup for anybody that the Packers try to line up on against him, John, because he is that 3-level threat. He's had a eerily quiet season, and I do think that this will be an awakening of sorts, because I feel like Devontae Smith's really ready to take things over, and I do believe that when in doubt, Jalen Hurts has proven that he's going to lean on Devontae Smith to be that safety valve for him. I also wouldn't be surprised if Dallas Goedert, now that he's had 13 snaps in the season finale, I feel like he's going to have a presence over the middle of the field as well.
So, Andrew, I know that Nick Sirianni can't speculate about Jalen Hurts since he's in concussion protocol, but we are not restricted from doing so. Do you think that Jalen Hurts clears concussion protocol today, tomorrow? Do you have a guess on that?
Well, I would imagine that he's going to practice today, and then if he reports back with no symptoms Thursday morning, then you're going to have your answer. But he can't talk to the media until he gets the practice under his belt, until, of course, he clears concussion protocol. But my read on it is there's no need to sound the panic alarm. Now, if we don't get any further answers today, okay, well, then there's reason for concern. But I would imagine that tomorrow morning, guys, we're going to have our answer. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be fine and ready to go for Sunday.
Well, Andrew, you're going to be fine and ready to go because you are always available. So appreciate the time. We will talk to you for the full 8 o'clock hour on Friday.
You got some work this afternoon, right?
Yes, that's right. I will be co-hosting with Tyrone Johnson for the best show ever, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Oh, that's awesome. So tune in 2 to 6 here, Andrew DeCecco, man. Appreciate
Just wipe
the time.
everything down.
Yeah, keep that away. We got some sickness going around the building.
Buddy.
There's Andrew DeCecco on the Comcast Business Hotline. Every day in business is a big day. Comcast Business gets you ready for what's next.
Now, it was interesting because very much in line with his thing about let's have Jalen Hurts just run the ball early in this game. Brendan Gunn was saying, forget about all the sickness going around the station. He said everybody should just lick the console.
I would never say that.
Take the risk.
Yeah, right. You might as well see if you're going to get sick
what Connor
now.
said over there. But
come on.
Listen, man, my immune system is strong. I don't know about you guys, but I live in germs basically every day with the way that my lifestyle is.
Dirty? You don't clean up you don't wash your dishes?
He goes and gets a Big Mac and then brings it into bed and falls asleep with it on the nightstand, not eating it.
Well, those things are indestructible. They last through a nuke.
Just like me, baby.
Well, believe
you
me.
are what you eat.
It is.
So Andrew seems to think pretty confidently that Jalen Hurts is good to go, that he should get through practice today,
Sure.
and then obviously you have to get through practice and not report symptoms, the fully clear concussion protocol. So that's the time frame for what the assumed news is. Now, again, remember, that's just an assumption, but it sounds like there's also a high level of confidence from Andrew DeCecco that the Philadelphia Eagles will be able to win this game as long as Hurts is available, like we expect him to be, and they do what they've been doing all year. This is what we're talking about. You may have some concerns, but at the end of the day, I don't think there's many people that believe the Eagles are not coming out of this game victorious.
And the opponents of the Eagles, I would tell you almost every single game, they will have more concerns about them than the Eagles should have.
Well, that is totally fair. And a little bit later on this hour, not doing it just next, but later on this hour, you're going to have some perspective on how the opponents of the Eagles, or rather the opponents' media, are talking. But coming up, I want to react a little bit more to what Andrew had to say there as far as the mentality heading into this game from the Eagles, and also what the game plan could be, because he said something very interesting earlier on in that interview that I want to break down with you, Johnny. So I'll tell you what that was specifically next. I'm Connor Thomas sitting in for Andrew Salciunas, John Kincade to my left. Brendan Gunn on the board. We're back after this for more Kincade and Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now, a Birds Insider.
got some work to take care of here on the show. We got to react to what Andrew DiCecco had to say there in his midweek to check in, and he sounded pretty positive.
I think he sounded real positive. Yeah, I feel good about. DiCecco has the ability to make you feel a little more comfortable.
He does.
With the way things are going.
Now, I will say there have been times this year where he seemed more confident, and I guess that lends to reason considering it is a postseason opponent, a double-digit win team.
He was very confident in that Commanders game, and he probably would have been right if Jalen Hurts didn't play 11 snaps.
I mean, this team has only lost one game that they should have lost. Right? The loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was the only time this year where the Eagles walked out on the field and you're like, well, they were clearly not.
They shouldn't have won that game.
Exactly. Like, they should have won the Atlanta game. They should have won the Washington game. Like, all the other games that you could say, oh, well, maybe they should have lost it. Well, they did win, so I'm not going to retroactively give back those W's. Like, the only game that I think they walked onto the field and were clearly not the better team was in Week 4 against Tampa Bay without your number 1 and 2 wide receivers, without Lane Johnson, prior to the bye week when they figured stuff out. Like, as much as we've had these individual storylines that concern you about the Philadelphia Eagles throughout the year, the Nick Sirianni stuff, A.J. Brown questioning the passing game, like figuring out what the defense is going to be, like it's the pass rush. All of these individual little side stories have kind of distracted us from the fact that this team has been consistently unbelievable. And now that we look back, we can truly take into account how good this team is.
You know the unbelievable word that you used, though, or
Yes.
unbelievably, is not the most important word you used. It's the first word. It's the consistently.
Yes.
The Eagles have given us a product this year that's been consistently good. And we understand it. We know what to expect. And it's not too much to just say, you know what, this team's going to work out just fine. The way that they're doing things. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so I get why Andrew DiCecco, and if Andrew DiCecco has confidence, the fan base should, because he is a guy that tries to keep his reporting logical and unbiased.
Yes.
And
well, that's how he was programmed in the factory.
Absolutely. When he came off the football guy assembly line,
right.
that's what was put into the microchip. But no, like all jokes aside, the fan base should be more confident because we have the luxury to be slightly biased, or in some cases heavily biased, towards the Eagles. But if reporters are telling you that this team is the heavy favorite, the fan base should feel even stronger of that. Speaking of, you brought up that the Eagles have put a good product on the field. Well, we're about to put a good product in your hands here. We're going to give away another pack of Wise Snacks because it's a Wise Snacks Wednesday. So you can call the contest line right now, 215-263-0975. Caller number 1, the first caller to the contest line, will win a $25 Rally House gift card so you can go and get your gear ahead of the postseason game.
That's
and
fantastic.
All winners today also get a variety box of Wise Snacks. Munch the good vibe on game day with Wise Snacks. Catch the Mike Missanelli Show broadcasting live this Friday starting at 10 a.m. at the Rally House in Willow Grove.
Will Mike sing the song?
He might.
I hope he does. I hope he does.
Rally House song? Yeah, he very well could.
House.
I think he's restricted to one song. That whole program is just stuck on Sirianni Love. But you could stop by Rally House and gear up for the Birds playoff run. You get your snacks for game day. You get your gear for game day. A beautiful giveaway to caller number 1 on the contest line right now. Again, that number, 215-263-0975. So, Andrew DiCecco said something interesting. You asked him about, I want to know your thought process behind this question. You singled out Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
Why?
Mainly because of the fact that I feel like he's been underused. I think he's been underutilized. And people talk about Jahan Dotson not getting enough. I sort of feel like Devontae Smith has not gotten enough this year. Now, I realize that the person who has been damaged the most by Saquon being here is Devontae Smith. He's the guy who, because AJ's going to get his, and AJ's going to be noisy when he doesn't get his.
Right.
Devontae Smith is quiet. He's the Slim Reaper. He just goes out there and does his job. And I feel like it was, to me, that's been a bit of a problem. Let's put it that way.
Well, if you get a ring, and that's a big if, there will be no issues with that. Like, whatever wins is what matters. Now, there is the conversation about, hey, it has to work, and it has to work on a playoff level for you to be able to keep this level of, we'll call it homeostasis, everybody being comfortable with the status quo with this Eagles team. So if Devontae Smith will be fine as long as you keep winning. I do understand totally what you're saying, though. He's been a big part of this team since he was drafted. He's a Heisman-winning wide receiver coming out of college, and he's always kind of played second fiddle or now third fiddle to somebody.
Yes, he has.
But this may be his week. There's a big reason why. I want you to answer this question for me, Johnny. If you're the Green Bay Packers, and you know that you're missing Jair Alexander, who would normally be your matchup for A.J. Brown, what would be your next move? Would you move cornerback number 2 onto A.J. Brown?
Well, I would, but I'd be worried about cornerback number 2 being able to hang with A.J. Brown. So I'd probably be wanting to play more zone-type defense, which then may play into Dallas Goedert having some more space, or Devontae Smith.
And that's a great point. If they do choose to continue to man up, I think it's logical to say you're moving your best available cornerback onto A.J. Brown, because you got to say we can't let 11 beat us. Now, they also have to say we can't let 1 or 26 or anybody 6, anyone beat us. But when you look at that, if you roll your next best guy over to A.J. Brown, now you got Devontae Smith on a backup. And Devontae Smith on a backup is a major mismatch. That is a bigger mismatch to me than A.J. Brown on whoever he'd be going against. Like, Devontae Smith is a 1B to A.J. Brown's 1A. So could this be the game where A.J. Brown benefits from a mismatch, but Devontae Smith benefits more from a mismatch against a team that we talked about previously in the show, whose passing defense has been inconsistent this year and ranks middle of the pack in yardage allowed?
When I hear that that's something that Andrew DeCecco's seeing when he does his tape study, that makes me think, let me check my BetParks app and start seeing those. What are those numbers going to be in the overs for him?
I think there's a lot of overs to be hit for the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday, especially if you believe that they can play through the weather that will be coming in, because that might drop the lines a little bit. It might put some money in your pocket. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll obviously do our picks on Friday. But coming up next, I'm terrified of this segment.
Terrified
of this segment. Because, listen, I'm a big student of Greek mythology, being a Greek man myself. And you said something about an Eagles Achilles heel, and you're worried that the Green Bay Packers media might have found it?
Yeah, I think they might have found it.
Well, we're going to have to hear this coming up next. So you'll hear what John heard checking in on Green Bay radio yesterday. We also, just a hint, we got to give away another Wise snack pack for this hour, and there's only one more segment that covers this hour, so stay tuned if you want to win some chips. A lot of great Eagles talk and a giveaway coming up next. I'm Connor Thomas filling in for Andrew Salciunas, John Kincade to my left, Brendan Gunn on the board. We're back after this here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
What's the status of QB1? I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. The Eagles are set to host the Green Bay Packers this coming Sunday at 4:30 in the wild card round of the NFL playoffs. The Birds enter the postseason relatively healthy, but all eyes remain on Jalen Hurts, who is still in the concussion protocol. In order for him to exit the protocol, he has to practice and then report back the following day that he has no symptoms. And the Birds are set to practice today, so we'll keep you updated all day long. As far as Jalen Hurts' participation goes, a good sign came yesterday, though, when the team waived third-string emergency quarterback this past Sunday, Ian Book. It looks like Tanner McKee will resume his spot as the third-string emergency quarterback, which means Jalen Hurts will be back at QB1. As for the rest of the team, Tony Dungy, who joined Kincade Salciunas yesterday, said he expects the team to be in the NFC title game at the very least.
So I like where they are. I think they're just really ready to roll, and I don't think anybody's going to stop them until they get to Detroit. I think we can look for Philadelphia and Detroit in the NFC Championship game.
The Flyers dropped their second in a row last night to the Toronto Maple Leafs by a score of 3-2. They're back in action tomorrow night hosting the Dallas Stars. And the Sixers host the NBA worst Washington Wizards tonight. Tip-off is at 7. You can catch that game right here on The Fanatic. This update was brought to you by Penny.com. It's open enrollment. Get the lowest costs on high-quality health insurance now through Penny, PA's health insurance marketplace. Deadline to enroll is January 15th at Penny.com. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
I'm nervous for this segment. Connor Thomas with you. Andrew Salciunas is homesick, so hopefully he gets back and healthy soon. John Kincade to my left, Brendan Gunn on the board. And John sent some stuff yesterday for the show, but then he also told me this
after The
morning.
Young and the Restless.
Yeah, right? I'm glad you got through the soaps and that.
I had to do that first. No GH yesterday, though.
Oh, yeah?
Jimmy Carter took away General Hospital yesterday.
Darn it.
But it's all right. God rest his soul.
GH will be back. I'm sure.
Today will be.
There you go. But when you look at Green Bay Sports Talk Radio and what they've been talking about, you got ears everywhere, and you always are checking in on what other people are saying.
I love doing that. I put the app up, the TuneIn app, and just bounce around and listen to, okay, the Eagles are playing this team this week.
Right.
Are they as obsessed on us as we get obsessed sometimes on the opponent?
And you told me that Green Bay Sports Talk Radio believes they might have found an Achilles heel for the Philadelphia Eagles, and you're worried that they're right.
I think they might be right.
What in the world are you talking about?
When I heard the discussion, okay, just bear with me here. I think the Eagles are winning this game. I'm not concerned. I do believe the Eagles will win this game, and I believe they will win this game going away. But there was one part that they were bringing up yesterday. The host was being very, I think, creative and insightful, saying that he believes the Eagles are front runners. That the Eagles are a team that even though they tend to start slow, how they won their games this year, they took control second and third quarters of games, got out to leads, and then literally choked the life out of them by running the ball, burning clock, one of the best time of possessions in the fourth quarter, handful of teams in the entire NFL. He said, so what you got to do with the Eagles is you can't let them get out to that 10-point lead, because they will just play keep away, and you will not get the ball back. But, he said, but what do the Eagles do when they're in a tight game? And the fourth quarter isn't like that.
Jacksonville, Cleveland.
Falcon, he pointed to the
Commanders.
But it's
first one.
He pointed to the, what are they doing in those games? That in those games, they are vulnerable. Dan Quinn passed up, remember, Dan Quinn passed up on a field goal that would have given the Commanders the lead with 8 minutes to go. The Eagles end up stopping them. Everything changes there. He pointed to the Atlanta game. The fact is, late in the game, a game hanging in the balance, the Eagles couldn't defend it. The Carolina game should have lost. The Eagles should have lost that Carolina game.
Or at least had a significantly tougher time winning it with like 40-some seconds.
It would have been a real hard time getting into field goal range for a kicker that that day had already shown you he had nothing.
He
had
point.
Nothing going on. You got lucky that day. The loss with Washington, same type of thing at the end. And even though that was without Jalen Hurts, can you make it? There's a thing about making big plays and getting into those games and dicey when it's tight. The Eagles are at their best under Nick Sirianni. By the way, I didn't know this until yesterday. They had the best time of possession in fourth quarters under Nick Sirianni. So when they win, they tend to just say, can't get the ball back. Here it is. You want it? Come and get it. A tight game is that they're like Green Bay. His suggestion was Green Bay has to try to play keep away with the Eagles. Limit the Eagles' possessions and try to play keep away from their explosive offense. And I got to tell you, as far as the tight game, if this game is a one-possession game at the end of the game, I absolutely am going to be concerned. I'm absolutely going to be concerned. We could see a Washington outcome. We could see an Atlanta outcome. We could see a game like Carolina that hung in the balance that I believe they should have lost. And so that is one where it was an interesting strategy because they want Jordan Love and the offense to get cooking. And this host was saying, nope, I need time of possession to be won 35-25 over the Eagles. And he thinks that's their solution to it.
My immediate answer to that would be good luck. And I'll tell you why in just a second. I do want to remind everybody, you're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia, Beasley Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. So I understand what they were talking about, and I understand why historically the 2024-2025 Philadelphia Eagles, that would seem to be the way that you'd beat them, right? You possess the football. You don't allow them to have the major plays. You try and beat them at their own game of keeping the ball away. You play tight at the end and hope they make a mistake. Just good luck, dude. Your passing defense is not good enough to slow down this Philadelphia Eagles passing attack. That's for one. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith against your best options would be a problem. You've got Jair Alexander, whose name I can't say today. You've got him out. By the way, you try and take away those guys, and you try and run more like dime back there to add to the passing defense because you don't have your best pass defender. Well, then you've got Saquon Barkley, who leads the league in rushing 2,000 yards. It's going to be back there. You have to stack the box against him. Or the Eagles are just he's going to bust one for 75 on you, no problem.
I feel like that from like midway through the third quarter, fourth quarter, every single game I expect the Saquon Barkley 40-plus yard run to be coming.
Yeah, just like that outside zone where he has space, and the next thing you know, if there's no safety there, he's gone.
They're tired.
Right. So
of trying to tackle him all day long.
Good luck keeping the offense down. By the way, you want to play a possession game against the NFL's leader or one of the NFL's leaders in forcing 3-and-outs? Like, if the Eagles know what you're doing, if they adjust to that, and Vic Fangio's seen possession games, shootouts, everything, if they find out that you're just trying to sit on the football, okay, do it 3 times. And then Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter are going to put Josh Jacobs' ass in the dirt, and the next thing you know, you're punting back to the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, you can't run a possession game against this team because their defense is so good.
This host was talking about the fact that he was not very positive on their quarterback, Jordan Love. He was very, I guess that part of his show has been he's been calling out Jordan Love all year long, saying he's not doing enough.
Right. And
this guy needs to do a hell of a lot more than he's been doing.
Here's what's interesting. I wanted to make this point yesterday, and I did not get a chance to. I forget what exactly prompted the point. Oh, you know what it was? It was the comparison of Jordan Love and Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
And what would Eagles fans, I believe you asked the question yesterday, what would Eagles fans be saying if Jordan Love
was their number,
was our quarterback?
Right.
Now,
if Jalen Hurts was the quarterback in the game, inferior in almost every single category.
Right. Now, I could make the argument that without the Pittsburgh Steelers game, the argument surrounding Jordan Love is very similar to what it could be about Jalen Hurts. Now, I'm reaching here, and I'm not trying to put Jalen Hurts down.
You're just putting it into context.
But we had questions like, yes, Jalen Hurts showed us in 2022 what type of a player he can be. And we know he has a high ceiling. And he has these moments where the Eagles' offense in the passing game looks amazing. But we haven't seen it for a while. We'd like to see you remind us. We believe you're capable. We have not seen it recently, so we'd like to see you do it. That was the argument heading into the Pittsburgh Steelers
I think that's
game.
fair.
And they did it. And they did an amazing job.
And that is fair. And it was fair at the time to want to see it. Mm-hmm. And it was fair that Jalen said, "Oh, really? How about a big spoonful of this?"
Now, if I'm a Packers fan, I could make the argument, hey, Jordan Love, we know what you did in Dallas last year against a strong Dallas Cowboys team. Now, they're chokers, but we know that you were able to go on the road and have a strong postseason performance. And there were moments that year in your not your rookie season, but one of your early seasons as a starter where you showed the ability to pass the ball greater than proficiently at the NFL level.
No question.
We need to see it again. But we believe that guy could be in there. This isn't a guy that's never done it.
No, absolutely not.
This isn't a guy that hasn't won in this spot before. He did it just last year. And this Eagles team is significantly better than that Cowboys team was.
And he's easily a guy that over his career, though, has proven to be culpable to making big mistakes.
Yes. But
Jordan Love, when he gets it. That Dallas game, he didn't. They got out to a lead and just steamrolled him.
And that's the biggest difference is Jalen Hurts, when he's bad, is at least protective of the football more often than Jordan Love seems to be. But anyone who says, hey, Jordan Love can have these weird games where he's the reason that Green Bay wins and he goes off.
And he can.
That's an argument that you can't refute.
It's been a long time.
It has been a long time.
It's a long time.
And that should be something that makes you feel good that Sunday's not going to be the day that you see it. But if there's a Green Bay Packers fan saying, well, hey, you never know.
No, I mean,
it's a fair point.
Could happen, but they're really grasping at something that hasn't happened recently.
Do you see what we have to do to try and play devil's advocate for the Packers even playing this team tight?
That's what I said is that, and I felt it coming into the week, is that there's this, I think we try to create boogeymans in this town. And a lot of times the boogeyman does not exist. And I think in this situation, the boogeyman doesn't exist.
Yeah, but still, my argument earlier in the week was you got to at least open the closet or check under the bed and make sure there's nothing in there.
Why would I do that?
Well, because
Brendan Gunn.
You believe he doesn't exist. So what are you worried about?
My wife was a terrible, terrible babysitter when she was a kid. She had this this kid in Miami that wasn't a good little boy, but he was definitely afraid of sharks. And she told him because he'd sneak out of his bed. No, there's a shark underneath the bed.
Ooh. She invented Sharknado.
If you get out of the bed, the shark might get you. And I'm like, you were a horrible babysitter.
Nah, that's also
for
dumb
doing
on
that
kid.
to a kid.
You're on land. You should
that's
know
what I'm
that.
saying.
Do some shark research.
I mean, come on,
bozo.
kid. He was little, but he was a bad kid.
He's old now, so I don't feel bad about saying bozo.
I don't know if he ever lived. I'm not sure if he did or not. The shark may have gotten him.
You never know. All right.
She didn't stay in touch. I don't think the people liked her.
Well, the Green Bay Packers are not going to be the shark that gets the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't believe it either. Hiding under the bed. But you know what? Sharks would love this because they're big eaters. Our listeners would love this.
And Mike McCarthy, stop calling. You can't
Trying to win the Y Snack Packs. We're going to give away another one. This is our final one of the 8 o'clock hour, which drifted into the 9 o'clock a little bit. But you call the contest line right now, 215-263-0975. You're going to take in Y Snacks Wednesday. Wow. You're going to get a $25 Rally House gift card. And all winners today also get a variety box of Y Snacks. Munch the good vibe on game day with Y Snacks. So go ahead and get yourself a winner. We got 2 more in the 9 o'clock hour to give out. And also, Johnny, you might have thought you got away with it. Andrew Salciunas sitting at home, a little bit under the weather.
Oh, no.
Doesn't mean it's not still Wednesday. We've got the playoff power rankings.
Oh, jeez.
We'll see where every team is set as we head towards the postseason. So we'll get into that coming up next. The Eagles in an interesting spot. We'll see where they are ranked by the NFL Network. I'm Connor Thomas sitting in for Andrew Salciunas. John Kincade to my left, Brandon Gunn on the board. We're back after this from more Kincade and Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Ricky Batalico.
This offensive line, I mean, you know how you can tell the difference? Go look at another team's offensive line. There's nothing like this offensive line.
Has plenty to say about sports in Philly.
They open up holes like it's going out of style. Look at Saquon Barkley. He's getting a running start into holes. Anytime you give a back like that, a running start into holes, I mean, you're talking about 4 or 5 yards of carry.
Hear Ricky with Tyrone Johnson on the best show ever. Weekday afternoons 2 to 6. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
When Moyer Indoor Outdoor came on the station and I was telling you about how they can make your lawn look green and lush and how they can keep the bugs out of your home, unfortunately, Andrew Salciunas had a lawn that is really not up to snuff, and I was a little disappointed in him. He knows how to mow a lawn. He doesn't know how to make the lawn look green and lush and thick. Well, that's what Moyer can do for you. They've been taking care of homes for like 150 years now. They're the absolute best. You visit eMoyer.com, and they can come out, give you a free assessment and estimate. And just because there's snow on your lawn right now doesn't mean that they can be doing things in the winter that help you have a green, lush lawn in the spring and the summer. Now, I refuse to have my lawn look anything but the best, so Moyer, take good care of it. But also, too, I don't want the bugs in my house. I hate roaches. I do not want roaches. I don't want water bugs. I don't want anything in my house. So Moyer takes care of that. And for whatever reason, we get the hairiest spiders that come into our garage that I've ever seen. I don't know it's like an ancient burial ground or something of spiders. So Moyer took care of that for me, too. It's awesome.
State Notre Dame fight off that's going to create a civil war in the Delaware Valley. That game tomorrow night. But Eric Simon, who runs our promotions, is also a big reason why we're doing these wide chip giveaways. Brought us down the box that people receive if you're one of our winners, and my goodness, there's some good stuff in there.
There's 20 bags of stuff in there.
So you get 20 bags of chips. You get a Rally House gift card if you're one of our winners today. What more could you want? That sets you up perfectly for Sunday's postseason game.
I just tried the golden honey barbecue. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
That was a nice item.
I only got halfway through it because we've got a very important thing we got to get to here, though. And we've got two more of those prizes to give away, the $25 Rally House gift card and the Wise chip box prizes. Those are combined prize. But power rankings, obviously, takes precedent over all of this. So
I need more chips.
Power rankings is the most important thing we do week in and week out. Brandon, can I get some of that NFL music, please, so that we can do the power ranking? Oh, that's a beautiful thing. So we're going to first start with the NFC East teams that are not in the postseason. Low down. The New York Giants are at 30th.
Do we have to do this?
Just to remind you.
All the teams that are out of the playoffs are not in the top 14, right?
Just to remind you, though, that they decided that they were going to keep their head coach and GM, being that they were the 30th ranked team in the power rankings. Dallas Cowboys at 21 decided to keep Mike McCarthy.
Sure.
If you guys want to stick there, that's totally fine with us. Let's scroll up to where the postseason teams start, though. The lowest ranked postseason team is
14?
Yes.
Because there's 14 teams in the postseason.
The Houston Texans.
Yeah, and they deserve to be there.
Steelers at 13. The Los Angeles Rams at 12. Now, you're saying Mike Missanelli is kind of feeling the Rams a little bit.
Mikey will tell you his reasoning on this one, but he had me looking at the lines yesterday, and I'm thinking, look, Mike Missanelli studied the lines a long time.
Interesting that they're
That's how he
12.
paid his way through school, gambling on football.
Love that.
You didn't know that story? Michael
not know that.
will probably tell that later.
Denver Broncos at 11. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 10. The Chargers at 9. And then at 8, we get to the Green Bay Packers. Now, I'll read a little bit of their blurb, considering they're the number one team we're focusing on outside the Eagles. Eric Edholm writes, a month ago, the Packers looked like one of the NFC's most dangerous teams, even if they couldn't wrest the NFC North away from the Lions. So much has changed since then. On Sunday, Green Bay slinked back to the number 7 spot in the NFC, setting up a rematch of Week 1's loss to the Eagles. The rest of the starters in Week 18, they bring up Jordan Love's elbow injury, Christian Watson a torn ACL. Just a lot of stuff going on for the Green Bay Packers that are moving them into a rough spot. So they're 8. The teams above them, the Washington Commanders at 7. The Vikings all the way down to 6th. They have dropped significantly after losing that matchup for the 1 seed. The Ravens at 5. At 4, your Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay, who?
The teams above the Eagles.
Can I hear the blurb?
Absolutely. I thought you were going to guess the teams above the Eagles.
No, I want to hear the blurb first.
All right, so the Eagles technically didn't even field a full game day roster on Sunday. They were one short of the standard allotment of available players, and their backups still played at a high enough level to help secure another victory heading into the playoffs. This team boasts nearly the same level of proficiency as the 2022 Eagles, who came up just short in Super Bowl 50, whatever that was. I can't
57.
Yes. 57 2 years ago, and that gives Philly an excellent chance to win the franchise's second post-merger championship. Saquon Barkley, who rested in Week 18, doesn't seem too broken up about giving up an opportunity to set a new single-season rushing mark, and now enter the playoffs as one of the league's biggest non-QB difference makers.
Okay.
He began his brilliant campaign down in Brazil with a 3-touchdown outing against Green Bay, the same team you'll face on Sunday. Any issues with anything that the NFL Network Power Rankings had written about the Birds there?
No, I just got to hear the top 3.
The Bills are at 3.
Really?
The Detroit Lions are at 2. And at number 1, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Are the Bills better at defense than the Eagles?
They are not.
Okay. Do the Bills have a running back better than Saquon?
They do not.
Do the Bills have any wide receiver better than the top 2 Eagles wide receivers?
They do not.
I think this is absolute blarney, as our Irish friends would say in Delco.
They've been the darling all year long.
Josh
Allen's going to win MVP because that was the narrative all year long, even though he didn't have better numbers than Lamar.
Very strange. The only argument that I think that they could make is if.
And what did they write the blurb? Let me hear the blurb.
The Bills didn't look like a team motivated to hand the Patriots the first overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, operating at golf cart speed for most of their eventual loss in New England. Josh Allen should be raring to go in Sunday's wildcard game against Denver. Star quarterback's protected by a strong offensive line, and he's at the peak of his powers, treating him like he's Superman or something.
Exactly.
Earning serious MVP consideration this season. He looks ready to take his career to the next level. And then they ask, will the Bills defense hold up their end of the bargain? So it sounds
the
like
Bills
the thing
defense is a sieve.
Yeah, but it sounds like the
freaking
argument
sieve.
for Buffalo is just Josh Allen's been unbelievable. You could argue he's the most impactful player overall in the postseason.
And the Eagles have a better offensive line.
Right.
Have a better wide receiving core. Have a better running back. Have a far better defense. That is preposterous.
It's
Who's
totally
two?
fair.
Who's two?
Two is the Detroit Lions, which hard argument to make against them. They're
Hard
the
to make
one
it.
seed.
No, I agree with you.
And then the Chiefs are 1 at 15-2.
And they
They're the 1
deserve.
seed, so.
Yeah, they deserve that.
The 2-1 seeds. And
Eagles should have
Buffalo,
been 3.
I guess the only
They should have
argument
been 3.
is if you think like the AFC is an easier bracket, but I don't know how you can make that argument.
Okay.
I would also have the Eagles flip-flopped with the Bills, but still, the Eagles one of the favorites to go out and take care of business.
Look at the
power rank.
AFC playoff field. Look at the NFC playoff field. Let's just do that.
Okay.
Okay, the 7 teams.
Be fun.
Who's better? And that's the question that, and you can answer on text or otherwise. Who do you think's a better field of 7 teams? The AFCs or the NFCs?
We'll take a look at that coming up next, and you can chime in again. We haven't been to the phone line or the text line in a minute, 610-632-0975. Which side of the bracket is the better one? We're going to break down those teams coming up next. We're also going to take a look at something John did yesterday, which was compare the QBs the Eagles' defense has already shut down to Jordan Love. So a lot of stuff still to accomplish here as we head deeper into the 9 o'clock hour. I'm Connor Thomas sitting in for Andrew Salciunas, John Kincade to my left, Brendan Gunn on the board, and we got some more giveaways still, so don't go anywhere. As Johnny's showing our YouTube family the box of chips that you could be a winner of later on in the show. So we got that coming up next as well. We're back after this from Kincade Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
We're talking about practice and QB1. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. The Eagles are set to host the Green Bay Packers this coming Sunday at 4:30 in the wild card round of the NFL playoffs. The Birds enter the postseason relatively healthy, but all eyes remain on Jalen Hurts as he still remains in concussion protocol. In order for him to exit the protocol, he has to practice and then report back the following day that he has no symptoms. The Birds are set to practice today, so we'll keep you updated all day long on the participation of Jalen Hurts all day here on the Fanatic. A good sign came yesterday, though, when the team waived third-string emergency quarterback this past Sunday, Ian Book. That kind of lends itself to thinking Jalen Hurts will be back and Tanner McKee will be back in that emergency third quarterback role. As for the rest of the team, Tony Dungy, who joined Kincade Salciunas yesterday, said he expects the team to be in the NFC Championship game at the very least.
So I like where they are. I think they're just really ready to roll, and I don't think anybody's going to stop them until they get to Detroit. I think we can look for Philadelphia and Detroit in the NFC Championship game.
The Flyers dropped their second in a row to the Toronto Maple Leafs last night by a score of 3-2. They're back in action tomorrow night. They're hosting the Dallas Stars. And the Sixers tonight, they host the NBA worst Washington Wizards. Tip-off is at 7. You can catch that game right here on The Fanatic. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 76ers and the Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Mike Missanelli.
right, well, we've got a lot of stuff still to take care of here on Kincade and Salciunas. I'm Connor Thomas sitting in for Andrew Salciunas. He is under the weather today, but John Kincade feeling great. Still to my left, holding a big box of chips up next to his head because we've been giving away some wise snacks throughout the show. Brendan Gunn on the board. And we're going to have a conversation about John is not just taking a look at the box of chips. No, he took a look at the quarterbacks this Eagles defense has already shut down this year, and comparing them to Jordan Love should give you a lot of confidence on Sunday. But real quick, we have 2 more of those prize packs to give away. So caller number 1 to the contest line right now, 215-263-0975. You're going to win a $25 Rally House gift card. And all winners today also get a variety box of Wise Snacks. Munch the good vibe on game day with Wise Snacks, and you can catch the Mike Missanelli Show broadcasting live this Friday starting at 10 a.m. at the Rally House in Willow Grove. Stop by and gear up for your Birds playoff run. Literally everything you could want ahead of a postseason game on this Wise Snacks Wednesday.
Will Mike be wearing his Penn State gear out at the Rally House on Friday?
Well, that's a question because if he's wearing his, Brandon Gunn won't be wearing his Notre Dame gear. One has to fall.
I'll be wearing it.
Really?
He seems confident.
Do you not realize the power that Mike Missanelli has?
Not enough to favor Penn State in that game.
He could have you disappear. He's got numbers in his phone that he could have you disappear.
Swimming with the fishes.
There you go.
B-Gun's going to be
in
out.
the Darby Creek. We could find you somewhere in the Darby Creek.
B-Gun's going to be on a flight to the Natty if Notre Dame wins that game.
I know I'm
avoiding. I'm not getting paid that well. But
I know that I'm avoiding Delco on Friday. I will just avoid Delco.
You're missing out.
Skipping it.
All right.
And I'm a native, and I'm not doing that.
Listen, we'll have to deal with this tomorrow. We will have a conversation shortly tomorrow about that game because that's a big thing for a lot of people in this area. But the bigger game is on Sunday between the Eagles and the Packers. And, John, while people have been worried about Jordan Love, you've been looking at other quarterbacks the Eagles have shut down this year. Explain your point here.
Yeah, I'm just saying, when you hear all the panic, and you do hear, you're hearing panic in people's voices. You're hearing, well, I don't know how we should feel about this matchup. Should we be confident? Jordan Love, he's done some great things. And yes, last year he did do some great things. But what I'm going to tell you is this, is that Jordan Love is going up against an Eagles defense that is completely different than the one that he faced in the beginning of the year in the very first game. There's even some new players out there. They faced Joe Burrow, no question, better than Jordan Love?
Yes, no question.
Lamar Jackson. Better than Jordan Love, right?
Very much so.
Matthew Stafford. Better than Jordan Love. Well, come on.
No. Brandon Gunn hates Matthew Stafford. He's wrong. Matt Stafford is
24-25, it's debatable.
You're out of your mind. Jaden Daniels?
Brandon?
Better than Jordan
Daniels
Love?
is better than Jordan Love.
Yes, he is. That's what I'm saying to you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's 4 victories of the Eagles where those quarterbacks, the Eagles gave up an average of 19 points in the 4 wins against Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford, and Jaden Daniels. But there's more. That makes those numbers look ridiculous. The Jaden Daniels 18-point game, the Commanders scored 8 points in the last 30 seconds. They really gave up 10 till the Scribinis came in at the end of the game. Oh, well, there's more. Against Matthew Stafford, they really gave up 13 till they gave up an inside the last 2 minutes touchdown. So there's 15 points that are completely bogus. Lamar Jackson, wait a minute. They gave up another garbage touchdown to Lamar Jackson. So we're getting it more. We're at 22 points that were scored in garbage time.
This is like a Billy Mays OxyClean commercial.
Okay.
There's always more.
So 22 points that were scored by those quarterbacks in those 4 losses were totally bogus. So the Eagles really kept them to under a touchdown and 2 field goals. The Eagles' defense in legitimacy kept them to around 12 points a game, 11 points a game. Sorry, Jordan Love ain't the boogeyman. That's bottom line. Bottom line, he's not the boogeyman. And those were garbage points by Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford, and Jaden Daniels that helped to make those games look a little bit better. We're talking 22 garbage points. And of the points that were scored in those 4 games, as I do my quick math, there were 74 scored. You're going to take 22 off that because they were absolute garbage. So in the 4 games, the Eagles gave up 13 points a game.
That's pretty good.
That's all you need to know. These quarterbacks are better than Jordan Love. The one that impressed me the most is Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
What they did to Lamar impresses me the most.
By the way.
And then Joe Burrow. What they did to Joe Burrow.
3 of those 4 quarterbacks that you highlighted there were games that the Eagles played on the road.
Yes.
Like, you're playing a home game. Lincoln Financial Field, football weather, baby. Like,
well, I don't believe the weather has any bearing on this one because the Green Bay Packers will in no way be intimidated at all by the weather.
You talk about where they come from, but then you also have to talk about the type of team that they want to be. And I understand Josh Jacobs has been a revelation for them. But Jordan Love is part of their offensive game plan. And if you have to run one of those, we talked about it yesterday, the whole idea of playing a game in the phone booth. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are just as comfortable doing that as any team in the NFL. So I think just there's so much that points towards the Eagles having a big victory on Sunday. All of these numbers that we've been running through today, they only point in one direction. Not just a win, a comfortable win by the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday, and that's what you should expect. Do you?
I expect it, yes.
Okay.
I expect a 2-score victory.
2-score victory now we're going. Okay.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm getting the Bet Parks app, and I'm playing Billy Big Balls, and I'm going to slide it over to 9.5, I believe.
Wow.
I'll slide it over to 9.5, which will then make my same-game parlay wild when I start manipulating that. I think I'm going with a 10-point Eagle victory or more on Sunday.
All right, I got to hear from the people and see if people are as confident as John Kincade is. Listen, I think touchdown favorite. Like
that's fine.
I would bet him up to 6.5. But I want to know what's going on the text line. 610-632-0975 is the phone number to jump into the program today. You could call, you could text. Are you as confident as John Kincade? And just the general thoughts on what we've been running through with the Birds all day. Brendan, what do we have?
Yeah, so we all know Coach Mike here. He usually calls in and all that. We all agree he's a smart guy, right? Usually knows his stuff. Always knows his stuff. Well, he's checking in. Gunn is 100% correct. Give Jalen a run early to, 1, prove to Green Bay we're not afraid to run. 2, show Jalen the coaching staff wants you to run in opportunities that are there. 3, shake off any rust that is out there in a more controlled way than getting sacked when you're expecting the hit.
Okay, but you know what he didn't say? He did not say that the goal is to get Jalen Hurts hit. If you want to run him early in the game to prove that you're willing to do that, that's a strong argument. You kind of framed it as get him hit in the open.
Well, that goes into it.
Because he has to feel a hit.
No, slide, dude. You can you can slide and still have people worried about you running the football.
Gosh, I'm gonna. You know what? Scott Master's in the building today. I want Brendan Gunn in concussion protocol. I want
see me for 3 weeks.
Either that or go pee in a cup at Human Resources.
You know what'd be
something's
fun
wrong because something's wrong with you.
If on the first play of this long postseason drive with a Super Bowl caliber team, we got our quarterback crushed, just to make sure he's not injury prone. Like,
listen, he's ran 500 times in his career. He has 1 concussion. Saquon Barkley runs it 30 times a game. No concussions. Like, it's not that likely. It's better than playing tentative.
If a quarterback,
I don't think it is.
If a quarterback gets a second concussion within a month, on average, they have missed 2.4 games. In other words, say bye-bye to G.W. Finns in New Orleans. Say bye-bye.
Yeah, that kills your run. I'm glad Coach Mike agrees with you. I don't think I've come over to your side. What else do we have on the text line there?
Yeah, we got Colby in Central PA checking in. He says, no, I'm not worried about Jalen Hurts coming out rusty. It's not like he went through a sabbatical in India to recalibrate himself. Do you really think any of the coaches are going to let him psych himself out? No, he's going to be fine.
It's the text reads very flippant, but I don't know that that's incorrect because Jalen Hurts is kind of this cyborg robot. We talk about
Andrew DeCecco seems really like loose and laid back compared to Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing. I made an argument years ago, right? It might have been before the 2022 season where we were talking about the future of Jalen Hurts, and it was just on some weekend show. But my argument was if you're going to pick a guy whose intangibles lend more towards his ability to grow and expand his role as a quarterback and the work ethic and everything, like Jalen Hurts would be the guy. He is the most football robotic dude that I've ever seen play this sport in that it's all he focuses on. It's all he talks about. He doesn't even have emotions outside of football, sometimes in football. So I understand why that would make you feel like, hey, he's locked in. He's going to be able to prepare for this game. No worries. It reads a little flippant, but I think Jalen Hurts is one of those guys that is just so focused on the task at hand.
Jalen's a little flippant, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
A little bit.
But, hey, man, he wins.
Hey, it wins for him.
And that's why you should trust that he's going to be ready to go.
That's it.
All right, we're into our final segment already. So coming up, we're going to have the Kincade Salciunas Key 3 at around 9:48. We also have another giveaway to do. And I want to truly break down this whole mental turning point of the week idea because I think this is where the fan base starts to shift. I think Wednesday is the middle of the week seesaw, and we're going to hear from a very different type of fan tomorrow. We'll see if you agree. Coming up next, I'm Connor Thomas sitting in for Andrew Salciunas, John Kincade to my left, Brennan Gunn on the board. We're back after this for more Kincade and Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Bill Colarulo.
The Packers are a complete team as well. You're right there.
everybody.
Yeah, we've got the flu rolling around the greater Philadelphia area.
Now
I'm sure,
the
certainly
third
here.
down and out.
Yeah. Everyone, take care of yourselves this time of year. It's easy to get sick out there.
Man,
Watch
be
your
careful.
hands. But,
Please wash your hands.
We're good, and the Eagles
We're
are
right.
good, and they're preparing for the matchup with the Green Bay Packers. And there's a lot of things that should make you feel really good about this matchup that we've talked about throughout the show. By the way, I'm Connor Thomas, sitting in for Andrew Salciunas. That voice
I wondered who
told
you were.
Yeah, some people maybe tune in and listen for the Tunis. John Kincade to my left, as he always is. Brendan Gunn on the board. And we've been giving you numbers, thoughts, takes, all this stuff throughout the day. Some based in facts, some based in opinion, all pointing towards the Philadelphia Eagles being the clear better team in this game. Now, the seeding would indicate that. The home field advantage would indicate that. Vegas would indicate that. The stats from the year would indicate that. The previous matchup between these teams would indicate that. Everything that you can point to would point towards the Philadelphia Eagles winning this game. And yet, when you guys, you, John, and Andrew, had the conversation earlier this week about let's be positive over, like, talk about why the Eagles are going to win.
When you have the best defense in football, one of the greatest running back in the game, and you got home field.
Right.
You're the 2 seed. You're not the 7 seed. Why would you be looking for the negative storylines?
Well, my response is I like to take a look at anything that could be a concern to see like where your weak spots could be, and then you evaluate those and you figure out why they're not as big of an issue as they may seem, or why there may not be any issues. That's kind of the way that I go through a week, but I understand why you guys are.
Mine is you're the better team.
Right. And
go do it.
Totally
Take advantage of it.
But there are some people on both sides. I think there were more people on your guys' side when we read the text line and went to callers and everything like that of just being this near blindly confident. And I don't say that in a bad way because the Eagles have inspired that level of confidence. But there's a tipping point in every week when you have a game where you're favored, a postseason game like this, a postseason series, a game in the NFL, anything here in Philadelphia, where the flow of the week is around this time, right? Around Wednesday is when you hit the tipping point from, okay, you have some people who are optimistic. You have some people who are cautiously optimistic.
All right.
You have some people who are kind of on the fence. It seems like we're on that part of the seesaw of the week where everyone just goes absolutely nuts, blind confident. The Birds are winning by 50. We start taking those calls. No team could ever beat this team. And we got a couple of those texts yesterday of just like anyone can come here and get it. Well, I think this is the point where the fan base mentality shifts. Now, you've kind of already been there. But do you feel yourself, Johnny, getting more confident as the week goes on?
I've already been confident. I've never blinked. I don't believe anybody's coming in here and beating the Eagles in the postseason, but I will find more reasons for caution next week when they advance to the next round. Right now, I'm just not seeing it, and I don't want to create them in my head.
Gotcha. That's
You know
totally
what I mean?
fair place to be. Now, Brendan Gunn, we didn't have you in on the conversation earlier this week, but I'm sure I kind of understand the way you think a little bit. I'm sure you had one or two things in the back of your mind that you were thinking about with this matchup with Green Bay. So do you feel more confident as the week has gone on? Are you feeling yourself get to that level of irrational confidence that we sometimes become known for here in Philadelphia?
Yeah, it's crazy because you asked me this question 2 weeks ago. We're facing the Green Bay Packers. I'm not excited about this one at all, or don't want to say I'm excited to face the Packers. I'd have a lot more fear 2 weeks ago than I do now. The way the Packers finished the season wasn't the best. Jordan Love didn't look that great. Now they're going out there without Christian Watson, Jari Alexander. I can't even say his name. Jair Alexander. Yeah, I can't even say it today either. They're down bad. I think the Eagles can go out there, and I'm kind of leaning towards John the further the week goes on. Like, it's going to be more than a 7-point victory.
And here's the thing, right? This is why it's cool to evaluate the week however you do, as long as you end up in a logical place.
Right.
Like, I'm going to end up where John Kincade started the week at. And that doesn't make one of us right or wrong. It's just...
Oh, no, it makes me right.
No, okay.
No, I think is what it is that it's the difference in our DNA. I'm black and white. You're not.
Yeah, I'm very much gray area.
Connor can find gray area in almost any argument.
Absolutely.
And my gray area doesn't extend past this giant dome that I've got. And that's plenty gray up there. I just don't live in that. I live in right, wrong, yes, no, good, bad, much less to dwell in the gray area. You call a snow day and play in it.
Yeah, but when rubber meets the road and you're sitting there Saturday night or you wake up Sunday morning and you get in your car and you turn on the Birds Insider pregame show and you're heading either to the link or wherever you're going to watch the game, what matters is at that point you have the confidence in your team.
Absolutely.
There are some people that all week will say, this is a tough matchup. I'm worried about Jordan Love. I'm worried about the Packers. I'm worried about them, like the Jalen Hurts rust factor. And they're going to wake up Sunday. And they're going to put on whatever song they Dreams and Nightmares or I Just Want to Rock or whatever song it is now that you tie to the Philadelphia Eagles. And they're going to go berserk saying there's no way this team could lose that football game.
Wait a minute. So you're saying that they're going to pull a Salciunas?
Pull a Salciunas?
Yeah. I'll call him out. He's my partner. I love him, but I'm going to call him out.
Okay.
He's going to pull a Salciunas all summer long. He's going to tell us about how I penciled in the Green Bay game as a loss. And then what did he do the day before the Green?
Oh, yeah, he picked them to win.
Then he picked the Eagles to win.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
So he's going to pull a Salciunas, and there's going to be a ton of people in this town that now Andrew has not done that this week. But that is a Philadelphia principle. Oh, all week long. Yeah. I'm worried about this game. And then the day of, Birds, baby. After trying to get you Chicken Little in it the whole way. No, have faith in your team, dude. Have faith.
You should. But at the end of the day, if we're rolling into the game on Sunday and this fan base is as confident as you are right now and as I'm getting to and as Brendan Gunn's getting to, they have reason to be, and I think that's a big part of the argument that we've made during today's show. Now, we have the Kincade Salciunas Key 3 presented by Von C coming up in just a second, but we have one more giveaway to do.
Oh, wow.
So, if you want to win on Wise Snacks Wednesday, of course, a $25 Rally House gift card and variety box of Wise Snacks. Call the contest line right now. Caller number 1 will be our winner, 215-263-0975. So that's the $25 Rally House gift card you'll get. All winners today also get a variety box of Wise Snacks where you can munch the good vibe on game day with Wise Snacks. And speaking of Rally House, you can catch the Mike Missanelli Show broadcasting live this Friday, starting at 10 a.m. at the Rally House in Willow Grove. Stop by and gear up for the Birds playoff run. Everything you need to get ready for the Eagles matchup with the Packers can be won in one quick phone call to the contest line. Again, 215-263-0975. So confidence is key. We will see how that carries over into tomorrow. We're going to get a very interesting perspective tomorrow as well. Like, we're going to talk about this again real quick before we're out of here, but we got Matt Ryan on the show tomorrow. That's going to be
I'm
awesome.
looking forward to talking. I talked to Matt last weekend, and I was like, can you get up? Make sure you're doing that. He's got the boys. He's got to get them to school, but then he'll join us tomorrow morning, 8:25.
Now, what would he know about the tough environment of Lincoln Financial Field?
Yeah, he knows a lot about it, and he's a Philly guy.
Oh, yeah, he is.
And he's a Philly guy.
Yeah, so I'm going to be as nice as I possibly can be and not make fun of him for dropping that game to the Birds on their way to the Super Bowl.
Oh, no, yeah.
He had a chance to get the ball to Julio in the end zone.
No, Julio had a chance to make plays. What are you talking about? He had a chance to make plays. Julio fell down.
Take someone to throw it, take someone to catch it.
Fell down. Yeah, guess what? They should have been caught right through his hands.
Well, we can continue this argument today and tomorrow as we have Matt Ryan on. But for now, it is time for the Kincade Salciunas Key 3 presented by Von C.
Now, the Kincade Salciunas Key 3. Today's best.
I've had this concern for like a week about Russ.
And you and I share it, and Andrew did not.
Right.
He doesn't really have a problem with it. I do. The one thing I would say to you, Connor, is this, is that there's a lot of people that have even called this radio station, texted the radio station, and they said, this is just like training camp. Jalen Hurts, you know, he didn't play a snap, and then, wow, he comes out in the regular season game, and he was slinging it. One of his best passing games of the year came against the Green Bay Packers in the opening game. But what I would say to you is this, is he practiced every day. He didn't miss a day of practice during training camp. He's been sitting around. And so I believe your observation on rust absolutely is something to not obsess on, but absolutely it should mildly concern. Mildly.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're not looking at this with just a little level of concern, I think you're whistling past the graveyard. Yesterday, the Eagles made a roster move that should tell you, without specifically telling you, that Hurts is good to go. They waived Ian Book, and you might say, well, Ian Book would be the fourth guy on this roster if Hurts is healthy. And that's exactly the point. If Hurts is not healthy,
he's the third guy.
He's the third guy. And the emergency third quarterback, lest we forget the NFC Championship game 2 years ago, could be important. San Francisco complained all offseason after they were ousted in the NFC Championship game about why did we not have another quarterback on the roster? We should have been allowed to have another guy so Christian McCaffrey didn't have to play like quasi-quarterback, running back hybrid in that game. So the Eagles know very well, firsthand experience, you need quarterbacks available. If they're waiving Ian Book, they know that Jalen Hurts is going to be ready to go.
I got to tell you, we knew Jalen Hurts was going to be ready before this. There was no... one thing I will tell you is that with any professional sports team, if something this big, this earth-shattering was happening, like Jalen Hurts wasn't going to be ready for the playoffs, it would have leaked. We got great beat reporters. We have guys who are focused on this team 24/7, including our own Andrew DiCecco and more. This story would have broken. We would have known it. It was never happening. I still don't understand the whole how they handled it. But more importantly, we're going to see Jalen Hurts on Sunday, and that's the big deal. They would not have gotten rid of Ian Book.
This defense has been as consistent, as talented as any in the NFL. I mean, that's why they're the number one defense in the NFL. That's why they've been in that spot for like the past month. It took them a little bit of climbing the ranks to get there after not a rocky start, but like...
That was rocky at times. I mean...
Rocky compared to this. Average compared to what I think we probably expected. And then they reached this new level of like competence that we never believed this defense was going to be capable of. They're unbelievable. And outside of that weird game against Washington, where one of their more important players gets ejected, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Jordan Davis goes down, Josh Sweat goes down. Like, guys were in and out of that lineup. Nakobe Dean was in and out of the lineup.
And remember, the game wasn't put away. You would have had a different defensive game plan if Jalen Hurts was in the game.
Exactly.
It never happens.
Right.
That never happens because you were already up 14-0. Jalen probably doesn't turn the ball over where Kenny Pickett does to make it 14-7.
Correct.
Yeah. So
they blitzed 38% of the snaps that time opposed to the rest of the season 18%.
Correct.
So they changed the whole scheme.
They knew that Kenny Pickett was in there and they were going to exploit it.
Yeah. I mean, that's completely
what happened.
What you put that game on. Outside of that one, they've been ironclad. So you shouldn't really have concerns about the defense. There it is, the Kincade Salciunas Key 3, presented by Von C. Brewing Company in Norristown, where you can try their Key 3, the OG Pils, a legendary Philly lager, and a gold medal winner at the 2023 World Beer Cup for Best American Pilsner. Walking on Clouds, Von C's flagship hazy IPA, and?
I would say it's the Vienna Lager with all the German ingredients. So pretend that you're right in Vienna when you're up in Norristown. Very similar.
Now, if there's somewhere else that you want to...
VonCBrewing.com.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead and check out where you can pick up their Key 3 for yourself. Now, if you want to have the real taste of, like, the German beer with maybe, like, the German scenery, you could also check out the Fanatic Deal of the Week at Camelback Mountain. You can get one open-to-close lift ticket to Camelback Mountain for just $40. That's 12 hours to enjoy 39 trails, fully lit night skiing, and high-speed lifts at the largest ski resort in the Poconos. Get this exclusive offer while supplies last at 975thefanatic.com/deals. So you do the deal of the week. You check out Von C. You could get a trip to Germany without even having to leave Pennsylvania. How great of a deal is that?
Oh, it's a ton of fun. Are you kidding me?
We're really taking care of our listeners this week, aren't we?
Chips and drinks and all this kind of stuff.
And we're going to be taking care of our listeners tomorrow as well. So we got a big day planned. It's Thursday, so it's our penultimate show before the Eagles will play for their postseason lives against the Green Bay Packers. And we talked about we'll have Matt Ryan on the program. That's going to be very interesting to check out.
Exton Zone.
Yes.
He's a Penn Charter guy, though.
Yeah, well.
So.
I don't really, I still don't understand
like
the dynamic of these.
Mean Streets Exton, but,
yeah.
Look, let's be honest.
You know what?
Remember, did you watch the Goldbergs?
No, I never watched the Goldbergs.
The Goldbergs, did you watch the Goldbergs there?
I watch it on like syndication whenever it comes on. Sometimes
Matt was one of the characters in the Goldbergs in a couple of the episodes was based on Matt.
Oh, no way.
Yes. So when he went to school with all this, he knew the coach and everything, the coach character and everything was Matt's coach at Penn Charter.
The more you know. He'll also tell us about rust versus rest. He'll tell us about coming back from injury for postseason, and he'll tell us about how tough of an environment Lincoln Financial Field's going to be.
Especially when he wasn't welcomed in his own hometown.
Ah, listen,
I mean, we ran. Look, I tried to tell him.
You come in here as an enemy. You come in here as an enemy, no matter where you're from.
Great dude. He'll be with us tomorrow. Hey, support life-saving cancer research. Join us in our generous partner, Window Nation, and make a donation today to the AACR, the American Association for Cancer Research. You can do it at 975thefanatic.com/AACR. I am living proof 3 times over that cancer research saves lives. Good job, Connor.
Thank you very much. Fun day here.
Wash your hands, everybody.
Yeah, everyone take care of yourselves. We'll see if Andrew Salciunas is feeling better tomorrow. So we're not sure if he will be back or not. But if not, it will be myself, John Kincade, and Brendan Gunn once again tomorrow. And no matter who it is sitting down in this chair, you're going to be hearing a lot of great talk that you need to know ahead of the Philadelphia Eagles matchup with the Green Bay Packers. As much as we think the Eagles are winning this game, it's win or go home. So we damn well better be right, and we better evaluate everything. And that's exactly what the guy coming up next is going to do. Mike Missanelli gets you at 10 o'clock. Amy Fadul alongside him and Sean Rodman on the board. So that's what you've got coming up next here. Our time's done on Kincade Salciunas.